I'm Brandon.
And I'm Jesse.
We're Cannabis School. Having cannabis-infused conversations
With everyday people,
cannabis companies,
celebrities,
and your mom.
welcome
To the sesh.
Some weird person hit me up on Facebook and they're like, hey, how are you? And it sounded like some Asian lady who's trying to scam me.
Yeah, I love those.
Like I had this one really funny. You remember that one I told you about with the gold razor? So I got this guy, he had hacked somebody that I was connected to on Facebook. And some of these people are people that I knew in high school, which I don't know in high school. I don't know these people. They're just kids in passing, but they remember me apparently. So one of them reaches out to me one day and says, hey, I really need help. Like, I don't even remember this person. I'm like, what do you need? I can't get my prescriptions. I'm like, okay. It's because I just need some money. And I'm like, all right, where's the place? Like, I'll go in, I'll pay for them. I'll meet you there. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, just send me the money. And I'm like, this sounds, because I have a sister recovering. Well, she's not a recovering addict. She's been an addict for, I'd say about 28 years. Mm-hmm. Heroin, Xanax type. Okay. That's her flavor. And I was like, yeah, this sounds like somebody just trying to get money from me. Because I've known these conversations with my sister all the time. Right. So I was just like, I don't know about that. I was like, what do you need? And go, well, I just need to go over there. I just need to get my prescription. I'm like, okay, well, and she goes, but can you send me like an Amazon gift card? And I said, I didn't know pharmacies takes Amazon. They go, yeah, they take them now. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So what do you need? They go, well, I need a gold razor Amazon gift card. And I'm like, okay. So I look up a gold razor, those scooters. And I'm like, and I send a picture to them. I said, Kay, ordered it on the way. Where do you want me to send it? And they go, no, I need a gold razor card. I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this gold razor? I don't need this. Right. This is ridiculous. I just spent all this money. And they're like, no. Like, to return it and get me a gift card. All right, what kind of gift card? From Target. So your pharmacy's at Target. No, but I can use a Target gift card. I'm like, you can buy in Target? You can buy that? That's crazy. I got to tell my brother about this because he's got lots of Target gift cards and he could be buying all of his pharmaceuticals there. It's just like, no, just send me this. I'm like, all right, hold on. Let me get this straight. And I went all the way back I pissed him off for so long and I screenshotted the whole thing and I gave it to my kids and they were dying. So now they love messing with anybody like that. And I'm like, hey, somebody's trying to get a hold. You guys want to talk to him? Right. And my daughter's like messaging him. And
well, I mean, that's, when you mention that, and this is gonna be weird, like this voice thing.
Yeah, dude, no,
it's
weird.
so weird.
I'm try to like.
Me too.
To get used to. I'm sure you guys have been doing it for a minute.
It took us years to get. I mean,
okay,
it's been
years.
years.
Hearing everything, and so I'm like, oh my gosh, it's Neko. Like that's the one that's inside my head all the time. You know what I'm saying? No, you did hit a couple of key points. I think where the world, is looking through a certain type of a lens, right? That is all manipulation.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally.
I mean, are we not being manipulated 100%?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You did mention there a little bit about family members that might have been on, certain things and people acting that same way. That's the thing is that vibration is real.
Yeah.
Right? It is plaguing the earth that we're walking on. Right?
Yeah.
I think those are the things, though, myself having a son, I think we talked a little bit there, Logan went through a period of his life where he, did some things, made some choices. And as a parent, we had to come back and make that choice. I ended up in a situation where with him, where he was crying out to me, asking for asking for money, asking for things that he needed. And I had to boil it down to this point of like, well, hey, if you need gas in your car and you need food,
let me get that
for you, but you're not going to take anything else from me. And that boundary, like, you have to put up. Right?
Is that really hard to set?
That's a hard one. I mean, you're especially when, like if you come in and say, that's my child.
Yeah.
And half of the trauma that he's dealing with right now might be because of you.
Yeah. And that's a hard realization too of like, crap, am I like, is this because of me? Am I helping or hindering? Like, am I enabling this or am I,
Well, exactly. And you stop and you look at like, the scams that even go on with the elderly,
Oh, big
Yeah.
time.
right?
yeah.
And how even families take care of, taking advantage of their own, just the elderly in different things, right? So this same thing is happening in
All the
all
time.
kinds of circles,
Oh, yeah. It's
all kinds of things. And we do have family, that we have to sit back and watch. Are we learning lessons? Of course we are, right? Have we learned? We tried it. Well, no, we got to set up our boundaries. We got to put our place in it. And so that's what you're doing. And to be able to have, at least the insight to be able to see into that, and that there is a scam and there is somebody trying to, and to try to work that, that thing of like, "Oh, sorry, you just can't con me here." That's the funny part.
well, and that's the thing too. Like, when in talking about your boy and talking about my sister, the difficulty is I used to get really mad. Like, this is you against them, but the only thing is that we all have the opportunity to be able to obtain vices, right? We obtain them. We don't seek them out. We just get them. We pick them up, like with the keys or
Right.
dog shit on your shoe. It's not saying that one's lesser than the other. We just pick these things up, and sometimes they stick, and sometimes they don't. And I've known a lot of people, like, throughout my time after my service in the Navy, I got out, I went crazy, was just hanging out, doing, if somebody handed me a drug, I would do it. The only place I was like, here's the line, is heroin. I'm like, I don't touch it just because I've seen too much, but everything else, bring it on. And throughout that process, like, knowing that I don't need that. I don't want that. I don't want that. I hurt my shoulder a long time ago, and dude, it was during the big opiate push with lots of surgeons, and I had an orthopedic surgeon. Dude, I had a script of 30 lower tabs, 7.5s every Friday filled.
Every week?
Every week I had it filled. And I thought it was awesome. Like, I come home from work and I'm going to pop a few pills and I'm going to clean my apartment with my buddy. Like, that's all we would do. I just get high and do that. But it was just this feeling. I'm like, I don't like this. And then what pushed it was I just like, I should ask him, see if I can get more. So I said, hey, these 7.5s aren't doing anything. He's like, I'll up it to 10. So I'm getting 30 10s every Friday. But my body was just like, it's like eating like lots of fast food. You're just like, oh, I really need a home cooked meal. This is just not good.
No.
And I just stopped. But I kept picking up the scripts and I would put them in a box. And I'm like, maybe I can use them someday, but I don't need them. And then somebody broke in our apartment, one of our friends, and he stole it and left me a check for $1,500. He's like, hey, man, thanks a lot. And I'm like, I'm not talking to you ever. You stole it from me. You could have just asked me, and I would have told you, I don't want you to do that.
Right.
But there's a lot of people out there that all they need to do is try it a few times, and they're just like, I like this feeling because I can escape who I am. And that's the hard thing to think about, to realize, because I don't feel that way on cannabis. It's
you're not usually trying to escape yourself with cannabis.
No,
you're more
enhancing.
introspective, you're more focused, you're more like analytical or hyper analytical of yourself.
Right.
And that versus like, most of the other drugs where you, like you said, it's numbing and disassociative and you're like, oh, cool. Well, it's way different feeling than connecting.
And that's, I think that, we're all on a journey. He'll hear me say that probably a lot.
Yeah, no, we're on a journey.
I touched on having family members that tried harder drugs, right? And I think that's that reality, for myself, especially, coming from the culture that we live in, from, growing up in Salt Lake, the LDS church, we can put, so many different things in just where we live and the hurdles that we had to jump through, of just the families and the disconnection that is really kind of, going kind of rapid everywhere, rampant, I guess I'd say.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing. Like, my father was an alcoholic. Okay. My mother, medicated with cannabis at, I mean, a lot, pretty at 16 or whatever, it kind of started this journey, right? And, she would drink, she would do other things, but she was just a cannabis girl. And I mean, even to this day, that's mom. She still medicates with her cannabis.
That's awesome.
So do you guys have sessions together?
We have not. So here's kind of that.
Wow.
I mean, here's kind of this thing. It's
I'm
been.
gonna partake right now. This sounds good.
Yeah. And before we get into that, today's session is actually brought to you by Beehive Gardens, Beehive Brands.
Yeah. What strain
Jeremy
is that?
brought us this beautiful.
So nice.
This is what I've got to figure out. It says Buzz, Lemon Sherbet, and Chemdog. So I'm wondering if it's like a hybrid of all of those, or if it's just Lemon Sherbet and Chemdog, and Buzz is just what their label at the beginning is.
Their Buzz is their label. I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
cool.
Yeah. It's the
yep.
Beehive.
Jokes.
It's the
It
Beehive.
says Buzz right on the other side.
Dude, that's awesome. I like that. That's pretty cool. And this is cool because this is like, we haven't tried a lot of other Utah strains because we've been so partial to Dragonfly. One, it's because their quality is super high. And then two, we just haven't had a relationship with any of the other ones. So
I mean, but I will say this:
let me see
Lemon
that.
Sherbet and Chemdog smells delicious.
Yeah, it smells great.
It looks.
Well, it's really frosty too.
really
I mean, look
good.
at that, like Hulk green.
You guys need to understand, like, for me, when it comes to flower, I'm just been kind of a vape cart guy.
Yeah,
with
it's so much easier for.
Yeah, I mean, but that's I didn't smell. I mean, there's the things that kind of come with this where, and I do. That's the best part right there, just smelling it, right?
Isn't it though?
I mean, just to smell the flower.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and that's so we had a guy on back before the sesh ever happened. A guy called, his thing was the Gentleman Toker or Joe Turney, and he always said the nose knows, and we talk about that. Like if you have a bunch of strains or you're going and can actually check them out, like smell it. Your body will tell you. It'll go,
Yeah,
this really smells good to you. Like
it's like
this is what you should
pheromones.
do.
Like the right strain is going to be attracted to you.
right.
Oh, dude, that's so good.
It smells delicious.
Well,
Sorry, I closed that.
I'm just no, thanks a lot.
Yeah, I was like, that's what I always do is just like push it against it
So-
sideways.
So I mean, I do have to, like, back in my early days, back in my 20s, and even before that, I did partake of a lot of cannabis flower. I used to dabble in distribution of it at one point in my life.
That's right. You told us about that. Actually, I wanted to go into that because it's such a cool path to get you up to where you are right now. And one of the things that I really want to be able to give, well, one of the things we want to give our audience is that we have the crazy story of how this happened. This is nuts.
How Jesse met Jeremy.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell the first part, and I want Jeremy to finish the last part because that was the coolest part. So we have a mutual friend, and you guys have heard me talk about 12 Shapes. 12 Shapes has changed my life, and we had a Pop Tire. I was meeting up with this lady. Her name is Kim Giles, the founder of 12 Shapes. We were meeting up in the morning for breakfast and some business stuff. Her tire pops. And she's like, I got to pull over. She pulls into a parking lot, parks there. She goes, I know where it is, gets an Uber, meets us for breakfast because I was introducing this woman. We're going to build a fundraiser for this nonprofit that she has. And she's like, hey, look, like, they go, we're going to split it into 3 checks. And I forgot my debit card. So I'm like, hey, why don't you get me my breakfast and I'll get you back? And she goes, no. Actually, why don't you drive me over to my car and that will cover it? And I'm like, all right, fair enough. Right. So that's the first sign. Like things are supposed to go this way. And then we drive there. And as we're driving there, she goes, oh, off on 33rd. So I get off on 33rd South up in Salt Lake City. And then we pull. She goes, oh, it's at this golf course. I'm like, oh, okay. Get out, go over there. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll help you change your tire. And she's like, no, you probably have somewhere to be. And I always say, like, no matter what's going on, I'm like, I'm supposed to be where I'm supposed to be. And right now I'm supposed to be here. So whatever's going to happen is going to happen. She goes, but you probably got meetings and stuff. I'm like, doesn't matter. I'm supposed to be here. So I'm trying to help figure out the tire. That tire was fucked. It was driving me nuts. It's a Jeep. If you own a Jeep, fuck Jeep, because I'll tell you why. These weird assholes are like, they're like Saab and Volkswagen. The lug nuts are not, they're not lug nuts. They're lug bolts.
Oh, and they go right into
the rotor.
Yep.
And it's just a pain in the ass, and nothing's fitting it. And I'm trying to get it off, and all I find is this like, and I come back, and there's a guy in the back, and he's in this like mechanic shop for golf carts, and he's pushing the broom around, and you know, he's just sweeping it up. And I'm like, this guy's gonna think I'm a jag off, but I'm gonna come up and say hi to him anyways. Hey man, how's it going? I said, look, I need a little bit of help. Do you have like a ratchet or a wrench? I need to get this little bolt off, because I thought this little bolt was holding the spare tire.
Yeah.
But it turns out, and Jeremy came over and confirmed it. He's like,
a lever.
no,
Loosens it.
they just put a pump in there.
What?
All the new cars, and you're listening, and you're like, yeah, my car's got one of those too. But
a pump?
It's just it's electric pump.
And I'm just having to confirm this 100% because my daughter has the same car.
Okay. Yeah, he was telling us about that.
It does not have a spare tire. And so we go back to the dealership of like, hey, it don't have a spare tire. They literally hand her like a pump and said, here it is. And so
an air pump?
Yeah, an air pump, right?
Oh, just to pump up your tire?
100%. So you're sitting there going, okay, well, this is simple. If you're anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
If you're anywhere else, this might work. Except where we were, right?
Oh my gosh, the tire had got him. The tire, it was all I thought was, this is what I had in my internal monologue. I'm like, well, fuck me. Now I'm just gonna have depression when I'm trying to pump up my tire and it just keeps leaking air. I'm like, this is like an insult to injury.
Oh, so it was a really big hole.
Oh, dude, there was a big gash in there. There was like a nut. Because Jeremy's like, oh, I've got a pump, and I'll bring it over. There's a little teeny compressor. Mm-hmm. He starts filling up. It's, and he's like, yeah, that you're gonna have to get that replaced.
Going out as fast as it's going in.
Yeah.
He tells us this little tire place in Salt Lake, and they were the coolest. Nobody's there. It was like traveling back in time.
We never showed you, but you just push that white part down.
Oh yeah, dude.
It.
Yeah, see that leather?
The white part just pushes down?
Push on it.
I told you guys I'm a rookie to this.
No, you're good.
I was like, we're a rookie, so this is how you clear it. You don't have to pull the ball out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Dude,
this is like kind of cool. This is like high tech.
Yeah, it's a indestructible bong. This is George
I love that
Jetson.
it's water. I mean, back in the day, that was like water bong was the way to go.
Dude, this way. Here, real quick. We're going to put a pause on the story. I want you to take a hit, and I want you to go, when you clear it, it's the smoothest hit from any bong we've ever tried. This was sent to us, and it sat in my closet for like 6 months.
We didn't even touch it because we were like, we got a ton of shit. This isn't our favorite looking one. And then we tried it out one episode, and it was like, oh my God, this is the best piece ever.
This is the only one we use on the show.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's give this a go.
Yeah. So light it.
But yeah,
start pulling, and then when you clear it, that's the cool part.
That was our
cool.
bad. We didn't even tell you. I was like, yeah, but you don't have to pull the bowl out or anything.
No, dude, and it's so clean. Plus, you got yeah.
That's okay.
No, let it fill a little bit. Like, well, everybody who's listening saying go. No, don't pull the carb yet. Pull it to fill it.
Oh, after you fill it.
Yeah.
So let it fill and then push the carb down, and it'll
just clear.
So right now it's loading it up a little. There you go.
Now go ahead and start pulling, and then push it down.
Or I guess you could let your breath out. There you go. Nice.
There you go. Yeah.
For everybody.
It's a smooth hit.
That is nice,
isn't it?
You can taste everything.
It's a super small company.
Yeah.
It's like a one-man band almost, but this is the best bong. And he's like, yeah, I'll send you guys out another one. And then that never happened because
he's super busy.
So busy.
And...
But the cool thing is that people have been going and getting it. Like, that's cool. Because it's heavy. And this is their smallest one. That's the extra small. The other ones are massive. They're so cool, but so clean. Dude,
yeah, my cousin bought like their large one. It's about that tall, I think.
The bowls are just perfect. You can't clean it with anything except ISO.
Back in the good old days, we had a 4-foot bong,
Hell yeah.
and
Jeez.
its name was King Louie.
Oh, that's beautiful.
King Louie. I had a buddy, Jeff Stillman, had this big old. I mean, it was King Louie, and man.
So let me ask you, because you've been in the cannabis or around cannabis, it sounds like your entire life.
Yes.
What do you notice in the difference of quality between when you first entered into cannabis?
Oh
and now?
yeah. Because I mean,
Do you
you
notice a difference?
yeah, you're an OG.
I am an OG.
But
big
it sounds like
time.
you
I'm an
ran in
OG.
some good solid.
The thing was, I mean,
Kush was
back-
Kush then, though.
Kush was Kush, but see, when I get back into the roots, like my father was he was very big into cannabis through the 90s. He ran a distribution ring out of Juarez, Mexico for the Aguirre organization that trafficked cannabis throughout the United States. My father was instrumental in building the illegal compartments in
Transportation.
Yeah. He had an opportunity that came before him, and he did his best at it. And so through my teenage years, it was kind of a big part of our lives. It kind of controlled a lot of our life.
Dude, let's go into that actually. So we're going to put a pin in my story because that's actually going to go really well towards the end, and I'm glad we're pausing it. Jeremy's story is so cool and unique. Let's start with that. Like, talk about how early was that in your life? Your dad's doing this. What was that like? What was life like during that time for you and your family? And what did you know? And then what did you realize later on?
Well, the big thing is like cannabis in my world was, I haven't all the way 100% confirmed it with Mom, but it could have been used in the womb. Okay, maybe that's a conversation we have to have.
So you're imprinted
Okay.
early.
So I'm imprinted early in my DNA strand. Okay,
Yeah.
right.
You already knew from the start. That this was for you.
I already came out of the womb like needing it Jonesin.
Yeah, just like
Right. I mean,
dude,
that's
shit's going
that's what
sideways,
I think,
Mom.
and I hope Mom don't like take me out like that. But that's okay.
That's awesome.
She was still a cool mom. I mean,
of course.
she would grow cannabis in the backyard amongst the tomato plants.
And where was this?
This is in Sandy, Utah, dude. Right
Cool.
here in Sandy,
Okay.
Utah.
Cool.
I grew up in the same house my whole life.
Yeah.
Went to Mid Valley Elementary School. Went to Union Middle School, and I should have attended Hillcrest High School.
Okay.
Kind of had either Hillcrest or Jordan, but was more the Hillcrest side. But at this little point in time, I ended up 9th grade year down in a small town in southern Utah called Enterprise, Utah.
Yeah, we're aware of that one.
Okay.
How was that, making that change as like a freshman?
As
Was
a
that
freshman,
hard?
it was so
'Cause you were in the
hard
whole
because I'm
community.
coming out. Oh yeah, I'm getting pulled out of a lifestyle because my parents are getting a divorce. Is happening right here.
They're splitting the weed.
Splitting the weed, and Dad is no, they are. I mean, they're literally saying he's down and out. I mean, there's some things happening, and he gets this cannabis company handed to him. Right,
Yeah.
saying here
Some Walter White
On a
shit.
silver platter, yeah.
on a silver, literally on a silver platter.
Here,
saying,
you run it.
Here, you run it, and you do it because you're the white guy. Right, and I don't mean to throw that in there, but this is because
Yeah.
it was
No,
a bunch
'cause
No
of
it's the
offense,
white-
Jesse.
Well,
I'm not.
We-
I'm not saying it because I love them.
We understand.
Mr. George.
Yeah,
Don't
thank
worry.
you. I was not that. There's no racial nothing here.
No,
We're
no,
not one in my
hey,
whole body.
I just
If-
had to give
if you
him
listen-
shit.
and I
Yes.
seen that though. Come on,
if
that's
you listen
the
to
part.
no, he's just fucking with me. And the whole thing is like, know that like I literally am colorblind. I only see people's behaviors.
Yeah.
And their behaviors are language, and that's all I want to speak. I don't give a fuck where they're from or what you look like. Like, here's an example. My brother-in-law, he's from Nigeria,
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
right? And he is black, like,
Knew the
like
family.
the two blackest guys back in the day in the 90s in Hollywood, Eddie Murphy and Wesley Snipes, right?
Okay.
Nobody was blacker.
Except for this guy.
Yeah, and this guy's really black. And so we go to Lava Hot Springs for a family vacation, and he's new. He married he married my
A couple
sister-in-law.
months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Well, actually, it was like
maybe
in
a
February.
handful.
Yeah, it was a good.
Yeah.
It was, about
It's
five.
been a few.
Yeah, a little while ago, and he's just not really social, and he's a little. I'm leaning towards he's on the spectrum because I know a lot about the spectrum. I've been dealing with it for 14, not dealing with it, but learning about it and living with it for 14 years with my son, and I just wanted to mess with him because he never laughs. So we get up there and he's like, and I said, "Oh, hey, I didn't think you were," because he surprised his wife. He said he wasn't coming, then he came up.
Okay.
Very unlike him, but he gets
Yeah,
up there and I'm like,
surprising.
I really was looking forward to you not being here. And he's like, "What do you mean by that?" And I'm like, "Well, because I came up here to work on my tan, and how am I supposed to compete with you?"
Oh gosh.
And he starts laughing and he goes, "I do not have a tan." I'm like, "Yeah, you do." I was like, I was going to come over here going, "What's your secret? Crisco?" Like, you just rub that shit all over your skin. He goes, "Why would I put Crisco on my skin?" I'm like, I love this. I love that autism side of him. And I'm just like, of course. I was like, no. But he was laughing. He's like, and he kept laughing. And the reason why he was laughing, it was illogical to him. He's like,
Right.
"But I am from Africa and I'm black." And it was just so funny. And I said, "Do you care about this?" He goes, "Your arm?" I was like, "Yes."
Right.
He's like, I don't know what you mean. I said, "Because I don't see your color, dude. I'm not trying to change to be like you. I don't need to." And I said, "It's just people."
Amen.
And he's just like, "Yeah." So I will frequently say a lot of racist shit, and it's all in fun because I grew up with racism. I didn't know it was racism. I just thought people liked picking fights with me. And I was training in martial arts. I'm like, well, okay, kind of makes sense, right? Maybe God's doing this, right?
Right.
God's like, "You will learn how to fight to hurt these other people." I'm like, all right. God said so. But going through all that whole process, I didn't understand racism. I really didn't. Like, I just thought it was cool. There was one black kid in my school. I went to Mountain View High.
Well,
Like, we're close to the same age.
well,
how old are you?
I'll be 50 this year.
Yeah, so I'm
What?
5 years younger.
I would not have guessed.
No, he
No,
looks.
so what would you say though?
I would say
Bro, I
you're
thought,
about
like-
my age or younger.
And you
Yeah.
I'm
I was like-
45.
Yeah, I was like 44, 45 maybe.
and I get
like,
43 a lot, and maybe to
Yeah, I could
40,
see
and I'm
that.
like, oh, sweet. You know?
No, it's I'm like,
I've got grandkids, guys. I've got grandkids.
That's
how old is
crazy.
how old's your youngest?
My youngest is 22.
Holy cow.
Wow.
I'm just on the verge of empty nesting.
Yeah, that's wild.
Wow.
Yeah.
How is that?
That's wild.
Like going from, you said you had 3 kids
I've
or
got
3
6
boys.
children.
Oh,
6
okay.
children.
Just in the conversation.
I only
before
have
you had
5 that I
mentioned
know
3.
of.
Well, because that's where
But
we got to the story.
that's where we were at in the story. So
Yeah.
crazy, man.
Dude,
6
okay,
kids.
It's just
Okay.
this is the cool
All
story.
right.
So, okay, I'm gonna stop it there. But
Rewind.
yeah, see, this is
This
really
is
good.
I was gonna
No,
say.
it's not. I mean, this is like the calming.
Yeah, it's super
mean,
calm. It's
I-
relaxed.
I mean, if I have to cut, I mean, like vibrationally, it's good. Like, it's just a good.
yeah, you give us your review. Seriously, give us your review. This is awesome. What do you like about it? Where are you feeling it? Because I feel it all over.
I've got it in my elbows, in my arms, my toes. I think. I mean, on my
Yeah,
toes.
that he mentions it.
I mean, is
Yeah.
that not like the part though when you finally? I mean, how long did it take you to be able to feel your toes though? In life, I mean, think about it. Like,
Are we talking about when I was in Inception or?
I don't know. I'm just saying, like to be able.
I
to
was
say,
in the womb. I was doing this.
I can feel my toes. I can feel my toes. I don't know.
No, seriously, because I have diabetic neuropathy,
Mhm.
and medicine has been taken away, but it still tingles a little bit. But I know exactly what you mean. Like, it literally makes my feet feel warm.
Yes.
It wasn't until I did meditations with cannabis that I started to notice, because I would do meditating like a little bit before I really got back into cannabis. And then I just like when I would meditate, that's when I would notice all throughout my body more. But that's because I was finally becoming present.
Yes.
In a lot of my other times, I was way too anxious and stuck in my head and all this other stuff. So I wasn't allowing myself to just be present and feel everything. So
Well, and so that's the part. Like people are like, oh, you're 50 or whatever. And I go, like, there's a little, it's hard to be able to tell to people of like what cannabis really, can do for you, right? And when you do slow down to those states, I've been able to get into a few little mindfulness where I'm trying to heal my body, right? But the only way that I can heal my body is to heal the
Yourself.
internal self, right?
Yeah.
And once you are mindful of that, then you can start healing your body,
Yeah.
right?
Well, because like there's all these things that talk about like the body keeps a score, or it hangs
Yeah,
on to
Brene
your
Brown.
memories and all these other things, and
Those books are amazing. I mean, and you come and go, okay, when you finally learn that and say, okay, I'm gonna start doing this, right? I'm gonna start taking care of myself. I was 305 pounds.
what?
I was 305 pounds.
I would never have guessed. You look fantastic, bro.
185 now, right? But again, a journey that you can have, but until you love yourself enough, you can't reverse anything. You can't even manifest that you want to be
Yeah.
healed. You want to be healed, right?
You don't even know.
You don't even know.
Yeah.
But
I
if you don't know how to
exactly.
feel your toes,
Yeah.
right? How can you heal your feet?
Well, or if you can see them.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's
Right? Right?
That's a struggle too.
Yeah,
is a
you know,
struggle.
like I mean, that's the thing. Like nobody thinks about. Like a good friend of ours, Bennett Maxwell.
Mhm.
Do you know Bennett?
I do not.
Okay, well, that's got to happen because you guys will get along great. Bennett
Oh,
owns
yeah.
Dirty Dough Cookie,
Okay.
and Bennett was around
Probably
about
around
that, but
that. High twos. Or was
he
in
was 310 pounds.
Okay.
and now he's 200 pounds. He's a
big guy.
Really?
he's a pretty muscular guy.
Okay.
He's solid 200,
Okay.
maybe 195. But I was around 225, 230 at my heaviest. But for me, I didn't think I was heavy. You like when you're heavy, you don't. It's just you.
It was just me, and I think that's the part where, I pushed myself all the way to type 2 diabetes,
I'm there.
high blood pressure.
Yep.
I mean, I was taking having to take everything. I mean, I did not know who I was.
What was that switch? What changed?
Suffering, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Cool.
Pain.
because there was a point where I did, and then this is the crazy part when you're like trying to put loving yourself a little bit, and I ended up at my doctor, like I trusted, right? And we got down because I had somebody tell me, hey, you might be ADHD, right? And I'm working at a pretty high level volume job. I'm a general manager of a multi-million-dollar
you said you were in-
fabrication company.
Okay.
Oil field and gas, and mining. A lot of stuff in gold mines.
That's cool. We have a lot of mines here, surprisingly.
Oh yeah, since I've worked in quite a few of them. Did a lot up in Kennecott, a lot of the salt mines, different things, but kind of doing that stuff.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
But along that journey is that part of loving yourself enough. I was trying to listen to individuals that were actually trying to, I guess, to get me to be better, right? Because I wasn't producing enough. I'd kind of, but man, I was very heavy. They were even trying to get me to the CrossFit gym. As we going to the CrossFit gym, they were trying.
Yeah.
But said, hey, you might be ADHD. Go check it out. And I didn't understand. Okay, maybe I will. And so, made a point with my doctor. We went in, we sat down. I said, hey, a couple of people are telling you might be ADHD. And I took his test. He ran through the model. And this is a guy I trusted. I mean, he was like state president. The guy there's a bunch of things, just growing up here in Utah. I mean, there's
You have
certain
that
things with that
relationship with him.
relationship where you think that, you're trusted. And I trusted the guy. And I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, I even trusted the guy that told me, hey, you might be ADHD. Right?
Yeah.
So I get the medication, right? And I remember like the first time I'm sitting in Birch Family Pharmacy out in the pharmacy there, dude, and I'm like opening up this bag going, okay, what's this going to do to me right now? right? And not knowing, and I'm fat. I'm at my wit's end. Like, and here I am having a boss telling me I'm not producing when we just,
Yeah, it makes you
sold
feel like
50
shit.
we just sold, $30 million worth of mining equipment, right? And like, it's still not enough, right? And I'm trying, and his only thing is, hey, go get on some ADHD medication. And so I think, well, dang, okay, I'll go do that, right? Let me go see. My trusted doctor tells me, here, this is what you need. So I'm sitting in that pharmacy parking lot, and I open it up, and I 10 milligram pill, right? And I'm like, I don't think I need that much. Maybe because I didn't even know what Adderall did, to be honest. Honest engine stuff. Like my kids,
Oh yeah.
I had one son that was on some at one time, and I didn't know what it did, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's good. And here I am, like 40 years old, and finally realizing that I might be ADHD. Like, okay, I've ran some pretty successful businesses, and I've done, stuff, and I've traveled the world, but like, yeah, maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. But I finally like, okay, let me take this medicine. So I talk it, and I pop it, and I'm like, okay, it's not working. And I wait there about 10 more minutes, and okay, and I put the car in reverse, and I go to leave the parking lot, and it kicks in as I'm driving down the road, like, right? And I'm like, holy shit, this is like what it used to feel like when I was on weed.
Really?
It literally lit me up. It literally hit some neutrons. It hit whatever the pinging, the dopamine that it opened up was the right receptor. Because at this time I was also on Zoloft. Okay, I'm like 100 milligrams of Zoloft, 30 milligrams, whatever it was at the time. And I've tried every one in the book in this 20-year period, right? Because I'm trying to, the hard thing, it was because of my faith, okay, along this journey, because, you had to fit in the kind of a box a little bit of what I was doing.
Who you are. Yeah.
Who I am.
Or present to be.
And present to be. And I had to keep it in this little box. And that was kind of like my reality of like, well, I'm doing it, and I'm checking all the boxes, right? I'm checking them all. And, it kind of came to this, realization of like, well, as long as I'm doing it by the book, it's okay.
Yeah.
And so 5 milligrams turned into 10 milligrams. 10 milligrams turned into 20 milligrams.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
My shit started getting in check. I ended up at the CrossFit gym. I ended up starting to lose weight. My house was immaculate. My garage was perfect. I did not have a flower that was out of place in the garden.
Yep.
I had all of my stuff was so in check, and I was booming, and I was chasing for more. I was going to, okay, but as it got to be like 40, 50 milligrams a day.
Yep.
And I'm hiding all this, though, from even my wife. I mean, because at least she knew I had the prescription. She didn't know I'm taking as much as I was. And I've gone back to the doctor a couple of times and upped the dose, just saying, hey, what, I kind of found a way just around it. And we just had such a trust factor with each other that it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Right?
It didn't affect it.
Dude, everything you're saying right now, like down to the moment you took that pill, I know because I was on Adderall a long time ago. And what you're describing, like everything, dude, I went through all of it. I don't really remember. I mean, I kind of remember the first time I smoked weed, but I remember the day I took that pill. I remember how it made me feel, what I accomplished. It was amazing. And the weight started just, like, people were really concerned. I was like down to 140 pounds.
What?
I hadn't looked like that since I was a teenager.
Holy shit.
Right.
Yeah,
and I was just like, whoa. But I thought it was amazing. And just like you said, I started on 5 greens, right? The little 5 milligram.
5 milligram blue.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
blue. Yeah.
Blue.
Greenish blue.
Yep.
And you take, see, that's pretty fucked up, bro. And then you take that and you're like, whoa. But it wasn't an extended release. And then you get the extended release going, no, I don't like that because then it takes longer. I need it now. And then you find yourself crushing them by chewing them. And then you start snorting them because you want to go faster and you want to feel that way. And it goes from 5 to 10 to 20 to 40 is exactly that. Dude, that whole thing, I just had
You
a
resignated.
flashback
You resignated.
the whole time.
Right.
And you know what I was thinking? I'm like, yeah, I miss that feeling of you just feel accomplished.
Mhm.
Like all your mind does is like that. And it makes sense
But-
what you just said about
but-
it feels like weed because it slows everything down.
But what I had to realize of what it triggered on the other side of that was this very intense ego.
Yep.
Okay, this is like ego on steroids.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And at the time in my life, I was actually like doing some growth hormone of different things because I'd lost the weight. I'm fine. I mean, it's coming off like
yeah, it's just falling
gangbusters,
off.
and we're at the CrossFit gym, and you're just doing it. It's just the guys you're with, and just everything that's going, and everything's clicking, right? And I think that's that period where egos took over so much, right? That it was not going to let me. And I'm very grateful at this point in my life. Okay, this is probably one of the most humbling experiences that I had to go through.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's the part of the story where we've gotten to a couple of times where, I ended up with my daughter in Colorado at a softball tournament. She's my kid. We traveled along a lot trying to fulfill her dream of being a collegiate softball player. She was able to fulfill that dream.
Awesome.
That's cool.
She is now in Nebraska, starting her first year as a high school teacher.
Wow.
Teaching gym and the high school weight class. And she's coaching softball in Nebraska City, Nebraska.
Wow.
We just moved them out there 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
So
That's hard.
she was with me in this
That's
journey
exciting.
too, like they've all been, right?
Yeah.
But I'm literally had got on to wit's end, and I'm like freaking popping Alka-Seltzer, Rolaids at different times because my gut's just getting eaten
Yeah.
up. Life is so high stress, right? With everything, even taking the stuff, and you're having to take more to get you where you are.
Yep.
And I woke up in the middle of the night, and I'm tapped out. I mean, we've been traveling. You look at the life and how crazy we were going, how crazy I was going, but we had to keep it going. That's the part. It was like, this is for my kid. I mean,
Yeah.
so it's like part of the story too, right? So you're like, okay, what happened here? But we're sitting in a hotel, and I'd gotten up and didn't have any Rolaids, and I've got like heartburn, like so freaking bad, and I'm gut problems, I've just ulcers. I've suffered from ulcers. I suffered from
Stress
that this time,
ulcers
just
and that?
stress ulcers,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
But also ibuprofen added on it too, though.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
through this
that'll do
journey,
it.
and they've like getting
Yeah.
some gut stuff when you're taking like 800 milligrams a day.
All the time.
But those things that we did to ourselves to make it suffer or whatever, I suffered to my wit's end, I guess. I mean, that's the only thing I could put into play, and I needed some Alka-Seltzer. Needed some Tums. I jumped in the car, left, locked the door, went out, jumped in the car, drove down the road. It's kind of crazy. So I ended up at a Maverick station, right? Like Go Maverick or whatever. But, yeah, right. Dude, I won money from Maverick.
No shit.
What?
Okay,
Oh,
wait.
that's
Keep
why.
going where you're at. I want to go back to the because we've got all the time in the world,
Okay.
dude. So tell us
Okay.
it all. Tell us it all. So
Okay.
we're here.
Okay, we're here. We'll bring this back. Sorry.
No worries.
Drive into the Maverick, and literally I'm just hurting. I'm just, you got that whole, just give me the freaking stuff. This is what I need. And I'm literally get out of the car, and however I was talking to myself, or whatever was whispering into my ear says to me like, hey, you need to go talk to that homeless guy over there. And I'm like, what freaking homeless guy? This is honest engine stuff, you guys.
Yeah. No, I
Like,
hear you. I've
I'm like-
experienced this a lot.
I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I've got to get
The stuff.
the
right
stuff
now.
in me right now. Literally walk into the Maverick. I go over and I grab a water because I know I need the water to wash it down, right? Come back around. I'm looking for the Tums, and I'm here and there, and finally find them. Get up to the check stand, and again, I set it down, and it comes to me again of like, you got to talk to the homeless guy sitting out front. And I'm like, I can't do it. Like,
Yeah.
taking care of me here. So I'm fighting it. I'm fighting this this thing. I get outside the door. I don't even get them open, right? I'm like, at least give this thing. And I don't. I finally have to surrender to this crap, right? And I set them down in the car. I shut the door. I walk back over, like, I don't have time for this. I'm saying these things to myself as I'm walking up to a homeless man sitting by the garbage can, literally by the garbage can. And I'm like, hey, like, my name is Jeremy Frischneck. You're okay. And this badge that I wore, I might have even said, like, I'm a missionary from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Like, how can I help you or whatever? Because that's the badge I was wearing, and I didn't know why I was there or whatever, right? And I, like, sat there, and he, like, looks up at me, and he's like, hey, dude, like, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm doing good. Like, can I help you with anything, right? Can I help you? And he turns, he looks up at me, he says, no, I'm here to help you. I'm like, what?
That's fucking trippy.
I'm like, I'm like,
So
what?
like, you're here to help me?
I'm like, you're here to help me. And he's like, yeah, I'm here to help you. I said, okay, how are you going to help me? And he opens up his bag. And it had, dude, there was like this big bag of change in there. Dude, like coins. Like he might have robbed a freaking, like, like robbed a place, or like, like a coin dispensing place. I mean, that's kind of what I was visualizing. Like, it just came out of the armored car, right?
That's hilarious.
And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. Like, I don't need your money, you know?
Yeah.
I look over there, and there's an angel's hat, like from the Angels, is inside the bag. And then off to the little corner, there was this little container of Chiba Chews. Chocolate Chiba Chews is what it was called, okay?
Huh.
And at this time in my life, like, I knew that, like, cannabis was in Colorado. I mean, there was this time that I was kind of like maybe hoping to experience, or at least before I died, you know, again, I mean, at this present time, in my thoughts and where life was, because there was a part where I thought cannabis at one time was pretty evil. Okay.
Me too.
I got to be honest.
Totally, me too.
There was evil, right? Even though that played a big part of my life, it was kind of evil. It was kind of dark, right? So I didn't know how to take that. But I went ahead and accepted an offering from him when he pulled it out of the bag, okay, and offered me the Chiba Chews and said I was supposed to take them with me.
Yeah.
Okay. He wanted to give me the angel's hat because he kept telling me I was an angel, okay? But I decided to let him keep that hat. And the thing is along this journey of this thing of meeting this guy, and after these transactions happened, he was trying to get back home to, I believe, what was West Virginia. And I ended up helping him purchase a ticket to take a Greyhound bus to get home to see his grandmother. And I was in contact with her kind of through the process of getting him there, and had found out that he was suffering from schizophrenia and a few things, but he was able to find his way back home. And like, so those little paradigms of things coming together, like it was just, you know, people helping people, because at the time I didn't realize what a blessing he'd actually kind of given me. And when I finally humbled myself down enough to say that it was okay to eat the Chiba Chew, let me tell you that Adderall and cannabis probably might not be the best mix for right out of the gates, right? Especially when it's a Chiba Chew and you don't know how much to take.
The dose or what you're getting into.
You don't even know what the dose is.
Yeah, like everybody does. They go, I'll eat this. And
I'll eat the whole thing because it's like, oh, it's chocolate or whatever, right?
Did you eat the whole thing?
I ate the whole thing.
Jeez.
Okay.
So let's say that my daughter, I mean, it kind of happened in a weird, we ended up on it. Nothing weird happened, but she noticed a difference in her father.
Yeah.
Okay, now what's going on? Right? But that was part of the realization, and it got bad again for a minute. Okay, because, you know, when the culture that we live in, and when my wife finally found out that some things weren't, you know, and I'm lying. I mean, let's say you're hiding it. I mean, you're doing some things, and even in a marriage, that aren't cool, right? Because you're trying to be who you are, though, right? You're trying to, like, I know this is good for me.
I'm seeing the benefits and the values, but I don't know how to communicate that yet.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that because it's evil.
In what we've grown up or known, it's
right.
demonized, and so it's like, how do I have that communication on this?
Oh yeah.
100%. Like, I mean, these are those, like, you almost feel like you're a pioneer, right? I mean, we're just
Yeah, totally.
right?
Setting up your covered wagon. How do we have this
Yeah, dude,
conversation,
seriously.
guys?
Yeah, like, guys, are you like using the way? Like, I don't know, like,
You guys seen this shit?
Are your wives doing the same thing?
I mean, this is like, you're like, right? And so
Yeah.
there's that reality, and you're like, dang, this is, and I might have got a little bit weird, a little like hyper because I didn't know the dose yet. I mean, that's the thing of trying to figure out just your
Dosing.
Dosing.
Is
But
huge.
isn't that crazy though? Because I mean, what you're talking about is the same thing Brandon brought to me. He got me a cart from Colorado.
Okay.
And I will never forget that cart because it was this little black one that had this little nub on the end. So it was like a stylus for your phone. I'm like,
Okay.
brilliant. You're gonna get stoned and fuck around on your phone. That sounds awesome. Like, I never used it for that though.
Right. But that's what you. I mean, that's what you. Think,
That's what
right?
they think.
Yeah.
You go, oh, that's cool and useful, and then you're like, that's so not useful.
Yeah.
But I remember where I hid it in my house,
Mhm.
and I would keep it there, and it was my little secret. And my wife never knew. My wife, she knows. I mean, if she didn't know, she knows right now. And I don't know why I've never told her. The reason why I really liked enjoying mowing the lawn, it was I didn't know the dose. He's just
Mhm.
like, just
Here's a pen.
here's
Yeah.
a pen, and I'm like, cool.
Oh, I didn't know dosing at that
No.
time. I was
Yeah.
still figuring
No
it
clue.
out.
Yeah.
And I was taking like 3 or 4 hits, and I'm sensitive. I'm still sensitive to cannabis.
Mhm.
And oh my gosh, I was so high. I thought I was tilting with the earth
Oh,
as
yeah.
it was rotating.
Oh,
and I'm trying to push a
Full
lawnmower.
body.
And I'm
Those
like,
moments.
oh, and my wife's, and the lawn was not big. You remember my old lawn. It's small.
Right.
And it would take me 2.5 hours to cut that damn lawn. And my wife is like, but it was,
Would you go over that?
well, I wanted to make sure it was all level.
Oh yeah.
But it
Had
was
to be
just
perfect.
But it's exactly what you're talking about. Like when you're on Adderall, it's really cool at first because you put on these lenses that you can now see the world in. Oh, please. And when you're able to do that, that's the one thing that I try to explain to people, like, why do I use cannabis at the level that I do? Because my brain is going way too fast.
Same. It helps it slow down to where I can actually like.
I can
focus
pick
on
out
just
what
normal
I
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I know and I can listen more, like, you know, where it's guided me to this point. It's like what you're talking about, like the Chiba Chews. Like, dude, for me, when I heard that story, when the day that we met, I was just blown away. Oh, I'll take some. Oh, I'll clear it.
Clear that for me, please. I'm just still a rookie. I
No.
mean, honestly, this is amazingly like
You're good.
to taste all of that. I mean, all of those things, and I do like them. There's. I've done a lot of research in the different cannabinoids and what they're doing, and I mean, I've been down that path, especially trying to find, like we're talking dose,
Yes. Dose
right?
is
And
huge.
trying to find what dose I need, what is, what is
Have you
for me.
figured that out more now?
Oh, 100%. Like that's you find, especially when, half the battle is deciding if you're sativa or indica, right? Or what
Yeah.
hybrid I'm supposed to
Which
find.
terpene
which
is, like, the best
terpene
for
is for my
you.
profile. And,
Yeah.
on the journey of it all, like finding the right, I don't know, the right way,
Experience for you.
experience to go about, like, deciding that, to try to be, open, as we go through the process of even having to be honest with ourselves, right? Because there is the point where you are mowing the lawn and it's going sideways and you're sideways, and that journey you went through, though, was part of the process that you had to go through to decide when and how and what you felt like of when you needed a little something
Mhm.
and what that something was.
Yeah, it's like that what we were talking about earlier with Joe, the nose knows, and I truly feel like everything that comes a part of this plant, it's pulling you towards it, and the
Mhm.
first thing to rely upon is your senses,
Yes.
and it's when you're touching it, like, like, okay, cool, like last night, like, dude, my grinder like stuck together like it was glue.
Like the bottom of this one where the keef is, because
we can't even open that up.
I'm like, I have to use pliers or something on this one because I think there's too much keef in the bottom, and it is just like Jesse tried, I tried. I'm
We're
like,
like, oh my
do we get a
God.
pipe wrench for this? Like,
Right.
Serious, but it's just like you
So
know
did
the.
you want me to open it then?
yeah.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
can you?
Huh? I don't know.
All right, yeah, dude, right on.
I mean,
worth a
you guys
shot.
are
You
both
know
saying
what?
you're not.
We're
so
just
it's
gonna
like, I
do
mean,
that
it's
for all
like-
guests now. You have to try and open
It's,
it.
who can open the bottom of this grinder?
We'll have a prize or something.
So how do you decide what's the top and the bottom? Because
Oh.
honestly, I would not even know what
You're good.
I've never used a grinder.
So
What, are you kidding me?
No, dude,
because you
Oh.
mostly use pens.
I just use a pen and then I just do
Yeah. Edibles.
Moxie.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
I
okay.
do some
yeah.
Moxie good stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
they've got some.
Do you
good,
do concentrates?
I
through
do
them,
just
or
a live resin.
Do you do a dab rig then?
I've never done dab, dude. Never done
Really?
any dab.
So when you're live resin, you're just getting the pens then through Moxie.
Yes, just through
Oh,
Moxie.
okay.
They just have a disposable.
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
got- I mean, to get at least my live stuff, and then
that's nice.
my gummies at night. Usually, I'll do have a good little
Okay.
bit, especially kind of mixed up for sleep. Could try to get in that good
That's
rim.
it is. All of them are great. The one thing I will say though, this is
Yeah, that.
we always talk about like vaping is like fast food.
Mm-hmm.
It's good for a purpose, but it's not the best.
But
Right.
live resin is the best
Oh,
experience.
yeah.
Or rosin.
Rosin.
But I feel like it's really hard to find. Do we have many live rosins here? I don't think we.
We have it like in concentrates, like Pure Plan has the dab. They have Black Amber, but dude,
that's
for like
fantastic.
half a gram, it's $50.
Yeah.
That's
It's
crazy.
of
it's so expensive.
Dab, that's not a lot.
No, a half a gram of dab.
Not at all.
That'll go in like I could use that easily in a day.
Yeah,
Like
that's not worth it to
No.
me.
Mm.
But it's, dab in general, it's really like I was really nervous about doing dab. And the big thing for me is because I didn't want to look like a crackhead. Because this guy had this dab rig where he would hit it with this blowtorch until the glass was red.
right.
And while it was cooling down, he would say, and I'm not going to say it because
You're good.
it's around here.
But I just set a timer on my little smart device for like
Yeah.
90 seconds or whatever, let it cool down to like the perfect temperature and then
And-
put the dab in.
And then he put it in there, and then I was just like, all I had was the 1980s crack epidemic going through my mind. And I just, because of the glass, and he's like, you really should try it. And then the first time I tried it, I was like,
Well, and then it's also
Whoa.
like thinking, oh crap, dabs are going to be really high concentrate. And it's like,
much.
but that's the same thing that's in your pen.
Right.
So all you have to do is take the tiniest of little pieces. It could be like the size of a pinhead.
yeah,
right.
Because it's the same thing as a pen. You just take a tiny hit. And even if you take that concentrate through the dab rig, you don't have to take the entire hit. You just take whatever you need from it. But sometimes that flavor is better, the experience is better, the concentrate is better. And so getting through that, and realizing, hey, this is the same thing that's in the pen. It's just a different method of consumption for it. So if you can just, it's just dosing again, figuring
Well,
out.
and I think I'm more
that.
like you said where it totally looks like you're this
Yes.
weird.
Yeah,
it's
but-
like we're Wizards and Dreams back in the day.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
you're
that's the thing where
I
it's
don't know about that.
and that's the part where it's like for me because I think it is in my eyes is my medicine.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. And that's
And I'm not trying to say that it because there is total ways of doing it and it's not that we're not hanging out because we're here hanging out, right? I mean, I made the choice to this is something I normally don't do, right? But the experience and here we are.
yeah.
Like that's where I can say like no, like I'm going to accept that and that's okay. It's like asking me if I'm going to drink a cup of coffee. Remember? I mean,
Yeah,
I've still got like
Yeah, that was
I've still got this standard of things where I'm in my life I'm still trying to work through, you know what I mean? Of like this level of things, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and it's like even the smell, like
Yeah.
I remember back in the day like when I became an active Mormon in the church, I was a single dad, okay, living in West Valley City. Okay. And I mean, I was selling cannabis at the time.
So you were the cool white guy around.
I was the cool white guy. Okay. I was living there. My ex-wife had moved out. Okay, and we divorced. Bunch of weird stuff happened, and I had the boys. These 3 boys, Everett, Montana, and Logan, we were the brothers. That's what we called ourselves, the brothers. Okay, and we hung out a lot. Okay, they were my buddies. All right. And their mom left, and that's who I had. And I had to say,
So it's
okay,
just
this
the
is
boys
what we're
hanging
going to
out.
do. The boys are going to hang out. We're going to do our thing. And as I started putting a few puzzle pieces of life, because, along this journey, I myself ended up in a pretty dark place, ended up loading up a gun, and stuck it to my head. And I pulled the trigger. Okay? I pulled the trigger. And it didn't go off. It didn't go off because I'm here obviously, right?
Yeah.
But I had to sit in it. I had to sit in it and start putting the puzzle pieces together. As I cried out right before, I said, "What is my purpose?" I said, "What's my purpose?" And as these little things played out, like all of a sudden I started getting these photos, like these shots of my children. Man, they're running and they're playing. And they're running and they're playing. And I was told that's what you're here to do. And so when I'm sitting in this situation where it's me and these 3 boys, their mom had come and ransacked the house and like tears it all down. And I'm trying to put the puzzle pieces back together. And each night I'm coming and doing a room. And I ended up in the hall closet this particular night. I ended up in the hall closet. Boys were in bed. I went out and smoked a bowl. Come back in the house because this is my next task. It was the hall closet. And I'm just picking shit up. I'm like, okay, I want this. I'm throwing it away. And I'm sitting in a bunch of stuff. Because this is like, 8 years of marriage and like a bunch of shit,
Yeah.
all of these things. And I'm just sitting in it. I got to sort my crap out. I might have went out and smoked another bowl probably to come back in, to be honest.
Yeah.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, just to where I was.
Yeah, you start figuring out that
But-
your body needs more.
But kids are in bed. I mean, things are happening, right? And I'm not knowing what the heck to do. And as I'm picking up these books, I pick up this one and I look at it and it says Teachings by Gordon B. Hinckley. I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird, this is really weird. And I open up the book and it says, to my grandson, Jeremy. Okay, may this book like guide you in your life or whatever. And I'm like, holy shit, this is weird shit going on right now, right? And I set it aside. And as I'm digging a little deeper and I'm putting more stuff, all of a sudden I end up with this set of scriptures that were just freaking sitting there like in my hands. And they were the ones, my scriptures that I actually used in high school. I was a seminary president back in the day of my crazy story at a little private school called Mount Vernon Academy.
That's
where
funny. I also went to a private school in high school,
That's kind of cool.
an LDS-based private school.
Well, mine was LDS based too.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I was like that matches, dude.
Oh my gosh.
What school did you go to?
Leona Academy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, but I was.
That's hilarious. I was not the seminary president. I was the kid sleeping through seminary. So
I was the seminary president, and I do not still to this day. My seminary teacher just happened to be the mayor of West Valley at the time. I was like, dude,
oh wow.
I can't remember his name right off,
That's
but-
one hell of a thing to do, run seminary and be the mayor of the city. Was that simultaneously?
Well, we were a small school, dude. My graduating class was 10.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That
I
was
mean,
like mine.
Okay, we were a bunch of hoodlums
Mine
from
was
all
really
over
small.
all over Utah. I mean, it was I was the senior class president too of 10. No, just
That's
kidding.
funny.
Anyway,
I was asked to speak at graduation, surprisingly.
so did I.
And I was
gave the
like,
commencement.
what the crap? Like, do you guys even know? Why are you asking me this?
Right?
It was weird,
No,
but
dude, that's cool.
That would have been awesome. That's
Right.
serious. That's so funny.
it's hilarious. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so where did we? That was just felt good. Thanks,
Sorry.
guys.
No,
Side
that was
tangent.
no. I mean, hey, they're We let this flow. That's why
Where-
it's the sesh.
Where were we at? Seriously, what was I saying?
You were talking about being a kid, going to school in private school, and
We ended up there, Mount Vernon Academy.
but before that,
Jeez,
No, you
guys.
were in the. I mean, it was right after where you had pulled the trigger and you found out your purpose. And you
Oh,
found these
Purpose,
scriptures.
kids, scriptures. So I'm
Yeah.
sitting in this. The scriptures come up, and I literally took these two components that I was given and not quite sure, and I set them in their own little pile. Okay, because okay, is the world starting to tell me something? Because this process that is happening, right? Because I got to refrain back. After this, I tried to attempt suicide.
Yeah.
I did end up in the psych ward at the LDS hospital. Okay, and spent 2.5 weeks there. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, stage 2 bipolar manic depressive, seeing spiritual thoughts. Because what I saw, right, in that, when the kids and all that came, was kind of like this, like a light that I'd never seen before in my whole life. Right? And like nobody like really believed me.
Yeah.
Okay. And so they stuffed me in this other box. And this was a whole nother type of medication at this time.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because I was cannabis saying, hey, I know you guys have a pill that'll just help me feel like I am like when I'm on cannabis. So it's a good thing. I'm not telling you guys cannabis is bad. That's the good part of all of this.
yeah.
I was telling the doctors at this point, like, you guys have something, right? I mean, it's just give me something to feel like I'm on cannabis. They just scratching their head like, this guy's a whack.
Dude, I worked 10 years in psych. So I ran several different units at the Utah State Hospital for many years. And yeah, everything you're talking about, like, yeah, I know exactly what you're doing. I know I've met those patients. I'm like,
Well,
what are you here for? This isn't,
well,
we're not helping you.
Please understand, this was early 2000s.
Yeah.
Okay, early 2000s.
That's when I
and
was there.
there wasn't a lot that was going on, and it was just,
Nobody knew.
here you are. But I mean, I racked up a $50,000 bill.
In 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, 2.5 weeks of everything there. And like, as lucky as I was, like, I ended up with a guy that was in there that this was the craziest thing, because I'm just like, didn't have anything at the time. I was like, whatever. And I ended up in there with these guys, and we became best friends, and he paid my whole bill before I left, and I never got to thank the guy.
What?
Wow.
I never got to thank the guy. Like, I mean, we were such buddies in there.
Yeah.
Right. And I started asking, and I like never knew. And somebody told me, I mean, I remember telling him, like, well, he owns Sport Court or something, but I've never like went the journey to put it all back together. But this was a blessing in my life that came. That was like the craziest thing ever.
Yeah.
And so that's that
wild.
part. But you come out of it, you're on 6 different medications again, right? And I just wasn't feeling it at the time in my life, and had to beat out of that box. And at that time, I did pick up cannabis again. Okay. And that part was like the healing part that finally opened. And that's when I was able to put God into my life.
Yep.
So this happened first, and then the LDS church crap, right? I mean,
Once you
LDS church had
healed
been my
yourself.
whole life, but this is when I finally, and then my kids, okay, I'm asking the questions though. If you don't freaking throw the questions into the universe, right? Then how are they ever going to come back? And so is that prayer? I mean, meditation, we all have our way, right? We've all been trained to do certain things, right? But if you don't throw it into the world, it can't come back. So this was kind of that starting point of like saying like, okay, I'm going to trust the universe a little bit, but it is. And when you learn that it is it's the plant, it's the plant giving you the experience that you need, exactly what you need, and when you need it. Okay. It's going to tell you what you need to do. It's going to tell you, make you feel how you're supposed to feel. We all know it intensifies it just a hair, right? Just to make us freaking see it, right? Be present with it.
Well, and sometimes it's because we try and avoid it.
Yes.
So then instead, and then it really just presents itself. And sometimes I feel like that can be one of the hardest things for people, especially with cannabis, is when you, I think about this with certain people and their dosing at the beginning. Because I noticed in their experiences, they're like, oh, I had this horrible experience, and I was going through this, and I was like thinking of myself, like how they appear, like how they show up. And I was like, probably are working through trauma. They're working through self stuff. Like cannabis usually is super introspective. And if you are really high, you become incredibly introspective and you look at like all of
Dude.
these things. And that can be really hard because there's things that we're not ready to accept or look at or that. And so even cannabis, it becomes this thing of like, I will not touch that because I saw this thing or I was faced with this stuff and I'm not ready for that. I can't, like, I don't want to deal with this or face this at all.
Yeah.
I just want to like pretend like it never happened.
Right.
Dude, that
and
makes
move
so
on.
much sense because I always think about your brother. You know, your brother tried it one time and it was really
Yeah.
hard. But now what you just stated makes so much more sense. It's the same thing like people talking about they have a bad trip on mushrooms. Like I've never had a bad trip.
Mm-hmm.
I've only had positive. But I mean, yeah, but I've been putting a mild hallucinogen into my body for almost a decade now. And it in a constant state, every day. And maybe that's prepared me, but it really is that what you just stated. When you slow down and you have cannabis in your system, you get to see you. And sometimes that's really hard to see because you're like,
I think it's because we don't love ourselves.
No, you're 100%. No, 100%.
And it's understanding who you are to love yourself, right?
On
and that's
the
the thing.
deepest level.
The
Like
deepest.
seeing the real you.
That's
and
why I
loving
keep
that
saying that's why
real
I'm
you.
so evangelical about 12 Shapes because it finally it was that part. But the craziest thing is that cannabis has been this nucleus of being able to connect me to those people because Brandon knew for unknown reasons why he even gave it to me. He's like, hey, have you ever thought about this? I'm like, no. And he gets it for me. And I'm like, hey, what? He goes, don't even worry about it. It's yours. And it was the greatest blessing.
It's been so long. I don't even remember.
I remember.
If it was just
it was a
like,
half-gram cart.
What it was going on in your life or like if
You
it was just
it was just supposed to be, man,
Yeah.
because we became good friends, you know, after his divorce, we became closer. And I used to be good friends with his brother.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because, you know, after his divorce, because he had a lot of judgment coming from the family, but I don't judge. You know, there were a certain type of people that I was really judgmental at, and it's not their skin color. So we'll get into that in another episode. But
oh no.
But it really is, man. It was like this great time. It was supposed to come into my life. And it changed me. And all the stuff you were talking about, like hiding it from your wife and all that, and trying to make sure your kids don't recognize it because it's this thing. It's supposed to be bad, but you know, if you put it in a biblical sense, it's almost why Eve had to eat from the fruit,
the forbidden fruit.
Yeah, because it was something there.
So this is actually part of the story. That was the part when I found the scriptures, and I had the teachings by Gordon B. Hinckley. Okay. My night that I prepared, because I've prepared that time for me. Kids are in bed. Everything's in check. Dishes are done. Laundry's done. The freaking the clothes are set out for them to get ready in the morning because these are all prep things that I've got to do to get my butt in time to work. There's nobody else co-parenting. Like I'm having to learn these lessons, right? Being the dad, being the caregiver, trying to do all those things, and I'm not trying to tote my thing.
No. You mean you got a single dad over here too?
I'm sorry. I'm just
no.
Just to keep things, and so there's that part where I have to come in and go, okay. I went down and I sat down and I opened up the scriptures, guys. Like I opened up the scriptures and I had this little concept in my thing of like, when I do, it's going to be exactly what I'm supposed to read. Like I already had that much insight of what I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I set it down next to the bong. Okay, it was a 2-footer.
Nice.
Loaded her up, right? And
Did she have a name?
What's that?
Did
At
she
this
have a
point,
name?
I didn't. She did. This
That's
was
okay.
this was one that.
Yeah, I don't name my.
This
bongs,
is only
but...
the one that the ex-wife didn't take.
Oh yeah, so
you
yeah.
should just be named after her.
Okay, we could probably do that. I remember breaking it. I do remember breaking it.
Well, there you go. That's
Okay,
probably
so
why.
it was
cathartic.
But it did exactly what it needed to do at the time, okay?
Right.
So I put teachings by Gordon B. Hinckley over here on this side of it, and I put the whole quad over here on this side. Okay? and then partake. Okay? And then I opened up the book, and I ended up in Genesis. And I ended up and started reading. And as I started reading about the forbidden fruit, it was told to me that what you have right there is the forbidden fruit. Okay? The fruit of knowledge of good and evil, of virtue and vice, of everything that is there. Yeah. And I literally sat in it going like, no way, like this is really weird, right? Like, whoa, and I'm just in this dimension that is like, holy cow, right? Well, I come out of this, right? And that's where like I got to get my kids to church. I've got to get like all of these things I've got to make this happen. The next Sunday, we're at the Valley Assembly of God Church, okay, in West Valley on 45th South. Okay. We'd gone over to the Bible Baptist Church. Pastor Warnicki was his name. Okay. I went to school with his son, private school. So I knew like kind of where I was going, but it just didn't fit. They tried to stick me in a corner in there and say, hey, these are all the people that used to be Mormons, right? Right. I didn't know I wanted to be a Mormon yet all the way. Right. But
but you were looking for a fit. I went through a similar journey. Yeah.
Right. And so the Valley Assembly of God Church on the other corner that we went to the next week, they came doing cartwheels down the point, and the boys are looking at me like, Dad, this is not the place. Like, it's not the place, right? So I literally, like, we go back to the house, and I've got another week to think about it, right? Had my own little sesh, whatever, doing my journey, right? And I finally said, God, I've got to get you guys some new clothes, like, to go to this, like, to take you guys to this church, because I really had to come to Jesus, and I'm like, where am I from? Why am I here? Like, why am I in West Valley City at this point?
Yeah.
And when you ask yourself that, and then you say to yourself, like, well, I'm a Frishneck. And then you ask yourself, well, where did that come from? Why, I'm really searching for these things. And then you're like, why? And I'm like, finding the answers, And it was like, okay, this is the church you got to go to, right? I'm just thinking of it. It's just what it was. And I literally like had this paradigm where, okay, we got to go get the clothes. And so we had a DI, because I'm just at the time just kind of scrimping and doing the best that I can to keep things floating. And I go over and we got them an outfit. We got everything. We got everybody ready. I can't express to you this day when we finally showed up to the Jordan North 4th Ward. Okay? Because it was a journey getting there. But when we showed up, I walked through the door. And as I walk through the freaking door, guys, like this is totally like this. I mean, and I'm on cannabis. I'm smoking weed, guys. I'm smoking weed. Like before I go to, like.
No. I mean, everybody should know right now. And if you're in my ward and you listen to this, every Sunday, if you see me there,
he's high.
I'm high.
Yeah.
That's why I'm having great conversations with you.
I'm really like coming. This is good stuff to get out.
Good.
So, I used to hide behind the house and I would get a toilet paper roll. Okay, and you'd put dryer sheets in it.
Yeah, you're making your own smoke buddy.
Smoke buddy, right? Yep. As you're doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that out in the backyard, and I'm just like, and then I'd find that like oranges were really good with the citrus. Could take the cannabis smell off real good. So I've got my whole routine.
Yep.
Right, and I'm even cooking stuff in the back, making my own pills out of butter pills, so I could have butter pills during the day while I'm having it. So I'm doing this on the other, because they can't smell it, right?
Yep.
But anyway, we roll into church, and so I'm on a good high vibrational level. We roll in, but it was exactly where I was supposed to be. I mean, you're just like, ooh, like freaking, they opened the pillar gates, like with the doors opened.
Yeah,
I was like,
ooh,
like holy shit, I made it. Like I've been going this whole time. This is like, like I was like hitting it relatives like hands or whatever. Like we did this. My boys, they folded their arms. They walked down they sat down in those pews. And it was like they were exactly where they were supposed to be. And I'm like visually watching this crap, right? I'm seeing it. And I'm able to go, okay, well, like I've hid everything. It's all hidden. And I'm here, but guess what? I showed up. And I showed up the next week, and I showed up the next week. And the thing is this weird paradigm, because I end up meeting the bishop. I finally decide it's time to quit selling cannabis. Okay, because in that vision I had, it was kind of like, if anything happened to me right now in life, who would be there for my kids? And here you're selling a illegal substance, right? Like that's probably not the best thing, but it's what my dad taught me how to do. I mean, it was one of the hundreds of thousand things he taught me. Okay.
But you knew it.
But
Like,
I
was
knew
very
it.
Familiar.
It was
And
just
it was,
familiar.
and it was
Yeah.
valuable.
And I was doing it
Yeah.
better than he was, than he did, right?
Well, and you,
in
like
my
you
own little
said,
world.
You were helping people
But I
that
was helping
AIDS, and it's
medicating.
medicine.
It was medicine. It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It was
That's how I
different.
saw it, and I always did, because even my mom. I mean, there were just things that
Yeah.
I looked at it differently,
Yeah.
right? But the world didn't. But that was that part where I had to break, because I was going into a whole new religious world, right? That I always wanted to play in. I always wanted to be a Mormon. You know, I was the kid that would sit there in Jones. That, man, what would it be like to have family home evening? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
what would it be
Yeah.
like to be able
This is
to
just a
have a
different
mom
family.
and dad that freaking, you know, like sat down and even made me do homework, man. If I would have had a parent that even gave half a rat's ass about me doing my homework, and they always told me it was my fault, right? No, I was freaking had ADHD and like had some weird shit, but you guys didn't care enough to freaking. And I love my parents. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. Like,
No,
they were
no, I
awesome,
mean-
right? But that's
But it's
just
the assistance.
it's a reality, and they got me to this point, so we're good, right? Like I've forgiven
Yeah,
them,
there's-
forgiven them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was the guy doing the opposite of all these Mormons that were hating it. I'm the kid going, I want more. Like give me a family that I can.
Connect.
So I wanted it. I wanted it for my kids, right? So I'm on this little journey. The bishop calls me into it. All right, I got an appointment with the bishop. We go into his office, and we sit. I sit down, and I'm just fully loaded, just ready just to unleash my whole freaking life. Like, I got all this stuff. And the poor guy comes in and he sits down. His brother Downey was the guy that was in the room, and I didn't know who the bishop was, you guys. Like, I really didn't know to put the name. I was just showing up.
Yeah.
I freaking sit down in the seat, and I just freaking, he didn't even have the time. We shook hands. He sits down, and I just unloaded, dude. I didn't give the guy the time of day. I'm just like, I did this and this and this and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, dude, I sold weed, and I'm just unleashing everything. And the poor guy sits there, and I mean, it was probably 20, 30 minutes that I'm just, because I didn't know any different. I'm just like, God,
You just had it
I've
on
got
your
all this
chest.
guilt in me, dude. Like,
Yeah.
let me let it out. I mean, this is what you're supposed to do, right? I don't know. Like,
confessing to my priest.
confessing
or
to my
whatever, you
priest
know?
or whatever. I'm just letting it out there, right? And this poor guy looks at me and he's like,
Do 7 hallelujahs. And
yeah,
praise
well,
Him.
I didn't know what to expect all the way. I mean, you
Yeah.
know, I passed sacrament, you know, as a kid, but like from
Yeah.
14 to where I'm to 24 at this time in life, like I'm not
In that realm.
nothing,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not even close, right? So I don't know. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, I lay it all out on this guy, and the poor guy gets up and he says, Brother Frischneck, like, I'm really, really sorry to tell you this, but I'm just the first counselor. And I'm like, holy shit, like, I got to do this over again? Right? I mean, I don't know. I'm just learning. Like, I'm just learning,
Yeah.
right? So this little process kind of rolls us into, you know, I finally meet the real bishop. But this brother Downey, like, him and I became best buddies. Like, he like came to a bunch of stuff, and like that we could see each other on a level that I didn't feel like I was being guilted or shamed, or
You felt seen.
I felt seen. I felt like, you know, it was whatever. And it was a good experience, right?
Yeah.
So when it rolls back into the point where the bishop, finally meet him, he comes in and offers some assistance, okay, because I quit the weed business, okay, money's not coming in, got a little bit of savings, but not enough to sustain, right? And I just gotten laid off from my daytime job. I was a maintenance manager at a composites manufacturing place. And I quit I got laid off from my day job. And so I had to sit in this thing of, what am I going to freaking do now? Like, whatever. Like, I had to be humbled, right? So I go to the bishop. Here's this whole situation. This man, like, this offers me, like, you know, the world. Let me get you a food order. I'm like, okay, what's a food order? You know, and he starts filling it out. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, let me help you with, you know, what else do the kids need? And I'm like, well, I've got them on the floor right now. We're just, because their mom had come and taken all their stuff, and we made a nice little cozy bed, you know.
Yeah.
But the guy's like, then here, I'm writing this order for you. You take this down to DI, and for beds for my boys, and like all this stuff. And I mean, I'm not like, I've got this pride thing going on where
It's
I
hard to
can't,
accept.
I can't ask family. I can't, like, it's just
Yeah.
the realm that I'm not in. It's just like, but what do I do? Like, I don't even have support of a wife. I'm doing this by myself. Like, you know, and that's the thing of like, here's this guy just, okay, we're doing this. And so I'm like, sweet, like, how can I help you? Like, how can I serve? How can I whatever? And like 3 weeks later, I'm called as a scoutmaster, right? Which was probably one of the most craziest experiences of my whole life.
How long were you a scoutmaster for?
Dude, like until my boys got older, you know, that was kind of my calling. But
my
this-
dad did that.
this
a
is
lot
that,
growing up.
and that's that.
Yeah.
But do you have memories? Were you a scout?
Oh yeah, all of my brothers were all Eagle Scouts. We went on every camp out. We did everything. Like yeah,
Well,
I
and
loved it though.
my father was an Eagle Scout, right? And so it was kind of that thing.
My dad wasn't.
Okay.
His dad was, but my dad had done like, so he had gotten his Eagle project approved. He did
Right.
his project. He did his paperwork, and then submitted it, and they turned it down after, and we're like, that's not going to count. And he was basically almost 18, and he was like, well, I'm done. I don't care then. But then he was scoutmaster for like 15 years.
Okay, well, but see that. See,
And
I was
all of his boys were Eagle Scouts. And
I
like,
was a life scout, and the same thing right
Yeah.
to the end. And so it was something like, and so my oldest son getting his Eagle Scout, I felt was like, I got mine. I mean, we
Yeah.
did, but it was
Yeah,
like this was my
this is your
final like
time.
thing to say, hey, we conquered this one, right?
yeah,
But that little paradigm of thing, and me having to humble myself, because here I've got a food order, guys. Like it's like real.
yeah.
And he said to me, all you got to do is take that to the Relief Society president's house, and she'll sign it. And he gave me her address, you know, and whatever. And I'm like, cool. But that pride set in, guys. And like I sat on my counter for almost 2 weeks, right? And I'm just sitting there like, okay, there's nothing. And then Logie, little Logie, he opens up the fridge door, and he's like, Daw, because he had a kind of like a speech impediment at the time. He's like, Daw, there's no food. There's a little bit of milk. And I had to go, like, I had to make that journey to get that food order signed. And it was real now. The bank account was nothing. Like, I pushed it all. Like, I was trying so hard to find a job. And I picked it up, and I took that paper. I went over to her house, and I freaking got out of my truck, and I knocked on the door. And one of the most humblest ladies on the planet, like, comes to the door. And we never really quite met all the way. She opens up the door, and she invites me into her home. And we sit down, and we're talking. Brother Frischneck, tell me, I want to know everything. How can I help you? Do I need to come over and clean your house? Do you need people to help watch your kids? Like, what do you need? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how to accept charity. I don't know how to. It was my freaking fridge having to be bare before I could come here today. And I sat and like just had to go for the ride. And you're just like, humble your ass, Jeremy. Like, just humble your shit, bro. Like, there's no turning anyway right now. There wasn't. We're sitting there, and she says, we're talking, and her husband come in, old brother Bowen, and you want a piece of candy? He always trying to give you candy. And they were the old candies, you know.
Yeah. Been sitting there for months or
Like
years.
grandma,
and-
grandpa's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
grandpa's candy, right?
Yeah.
And he's always like 3 different times, and I'm just like, dude, I'll take a strawberry one,
Yeah.
right? Like they
Oh
were
my
always
God,
okay,
yeah.
right?
That's the safest one.
That's the safest one in the bowl.
Always.
Dude, wait. So Brandon and I, my wife's his cousin,
Oh my god.
and so grandma, grandpa Ivan, he passed just not too long ago, and he lived up till 93, and he was a great guy. But that was the funniest shit he would do whenever he would come by when he was still able to drive.
Okay.
He would go drive to your house randomly. He would just show up, and he would always bring the oldest candy in existence.
Rocks.
And no, but then he would bring like they were
And
like
rocks.
yeah, and rocks,
'Cause
literally
he's
rocks.
a rock hounder for like his
Okay.
whole life.
Yeah.
He grew up here.
So
I
he's
would-
always
I would
giving
love
you
it.
rocks.
I would love it.
and it was so funny because he would bring like what are they called? Why can't I think of it right now? This is a really good strain, by the way.
Yeah.
Those gummy candies. What are they?
Beehive.
Fruit.
Oh,
fruit. the fruit gum.
The fruit. Oh wow.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Fruit
the
snacks.
Fruit
Yes,
snacks.
fruit
Oh,
snacks.
shit.
The flavored package.
Yeah,
the
They
big
were
one.
so hard. And
Oh,
you look
so
at when it
old.
had expired and they're like 5 years old.
Right.
And he
Yeah.
brings over this big bag. And all I could say to him was,
I'm sorry. This is
thank you so much. And he goes, yeah, it's at my house. And there's like a half package of Oreos.
Yeah.
Who knows? God knows how
knows how
long
old they
that's
are.
been there.
right.
And it's like the kids are all, this is so stale. Like my youngest goes, oh, and I'm like, it's good.
Right. Eat it.
Because he's trying to do something. And I mean, time, when you get older, time goes faster. So you cherish it more.
Right. Right.
When you're younger, it's going so slow.
But but the thing is we just got to experience it. We got to experience
Yeah.
the old man with the candy right now. We
Right.
got to live that experience right now because of I'm an old
Yeah.
person, right? Just
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
I mean like, and it's old candy. It's from the old days. I mean, accepted.
It
It
is.
might be a 50s candy, but like
yeah, we were excited
back
about
then-
when we were little kids.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, yeah.
yeah.
Candy? Oh my
Candy,
gosh.
exactly.
This is
Matter,
sweet.
yeah.
I felt like
Sweet.
My
I felt like
parents never give me this.
yeah, it's like those guys who go out to like Africa and they got those like tribesmen and they're giving them Twizzlers and stuff. I do
They're
not
just
like
like-
this very much.
Very much.
Right?
No, it's true,
But
right?
it's just like this is too sweet.
Too sweet.
But it's exactly that. I was really resonating with you because man, I had to do that not too long ago. Actually, very recent. And I know what you're feeling. I've had to do that several times with my family and had to go there and fill out that food order. And then you show up and you have this sense of just disappointment and that you're a failure. And what kind of father are you to get to this point? You don't even deserve this. And that's just a lot of bullshit in your head because honestly, dude, like, where I really got spiritually was really not too long ago. Like I became, Brandon knows, because then I started getting a little bit more into it. And it was this book I heard on a podcast. It's called Imagine the God of Heaven. And I was like, oh, what is this? So like, I'm not big into the religious books. I'm not going to read any of this stuff because it's all one-sided. And I was like, no, it was a guy who was investigating near-death experiences and all these stories of what they saw, what they came back. And it was all different cultures all over the world. And the only thing I got from it was that every single time one of these people went over there, whether you believe in God or not, whether you believe in Christ or not, it doesn't matter. But for those that do, they want to be a part, they get this affirmation, they get the understanding that it's real.
Right.
And so once I understood that, the love that I should be sharing is the love that we should understand what we're getting out of
Right.
it. This is my understanding, of course. And my understanding is that God, Jesus, whatever you believe, but I believe in that, and that they love me no matter what. Literally. But the way that I was taught and the way that Brandon experienced a lot of the LDS church was in a very negative light.
Because
And-
God was this judgmental asshole
Yeah.
who sat in the sky and looked down on every little sin that you did, every little mistake of being a human.
Right.
And
Yeah, it
you
was
know.
really hard. His parents are great people. They are.
Oh, I
They're
love
really
them.
great people. And
Yeah.
and our family members that we share, they're all really great people, devout. Many of them are.
Yes.
But at the same time, it was keeping up with the Joneses. It's like the assholes I would go golfing with when I was in the IT world, and they would make a putt and they go, that's why I pay 12%. And I'm like, wow, that's not even funny to me.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's offering to help other people. That's what I finally came to understand. That's what it's for. It's to help other people. And if it doesn't go to it, then you're in the wrong place. But what I got from that book, and recently I had to fill out another food order. And when I got that book after that one, I was so excited to go there because it was so excited to tell this person who has dedicated months of their life to just be there every day and just serve people.
Well,
And they're like, and I wanted to thank them. I'm like, hey, thanks for being here. I'm so glad you're here. And I say that to everybody now, like anybody that I've been doing it for a while, but now I make it a very strong point.
right.
If I'm at Wendy's and that girl looks pretty pissed off who just took my card, which I rarely visit now, but I used to.
Right.
But when I did, like, I was like, hey, thank you so much for being here today. And they're like, this girl literally, she goes, is a fucking hamburger. And I'm like, yep, but it was magical because you gave it to me. Have a great day. And I drive off because I want them to know that's how I see my God as a person that loves me no matter what fucked up thing I do. My life is not a stain.
Right.
And no matter what I've done, I don't even care
You're
if
not trying to wash out a stain.
Yeah,
exactly.
You don't
Your
have
sin doesn't make you dirty.
Yeah, it's
You're not
just
a dirty
you.
person. Yeah.
It's just you, and that's why when I just feel a lot of Christians in general, and a lot of LDS people, they just had this thing like, well, I'm doing all the right things, but they're not listening.
No, they're checking the boxes.
Just check the box. They're not getting totally into who they are. They don't know. I mean, the program's being ran as
you don't know who you are.
You don't know who you're because you've been led. This is what you have to do.
But when it's in that dark time, when they're laying down in bed, that husband, and he rolls over and he's reflecting on all the shit that he is dealing with, but he can't look like that, right? He's got to do all that stuff.
Well, I want to get back to like that point of what you're saying of being true to yourself, because there's, there was a point in that journey of when you are just showing up, right? And you don't know, when you ask yourself, why am I here? Why am I here? Right. You know what I mean? And you are depressed, but you are because what you're living is not all the way, telling the truth. Sorry, guys, I was smoking weed and you didn't know it. Like, right. But if you would have known, you would have judged me. Like I've been judged so much by that. And I think that's that thing of like where my world is, and like me to kind of, discern the way I had to discern to be righteous to myself.
Yeah.
Right. I had to put me first and say, no, this is me. And then I can work on this and then my community. Right. And trying to serve my community. You wanted me to go serve. But guess what? My whole internal shit is totally messed up, but you're wanting me to serve. I can't. I finally had to say, I give up. Like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, I've got to do me first. And I had this complex of like wanting to help. But the thing is like, no, you got to do you first. You got to do you first.
Oh.
And then then you can do, you and your wife. Like, let's work on that one first before
we go off to the kids.
I can't go. Yeah.
People
but we're going and helping the neighbor down the road move. But my shit, like, my shit's out of check. Like, I can't, like, I'm still struggling here. But so it's like, wait a minute. This, to me, I had to break out of that barrier. Like, this is just messed up. Like, I got to take care of me first. And, and that's what cannabis brought.
100%.
But sitting at the point of where Sister Bowen fills the food order out and finally signs it, right? And she says, Brother Frischneck, I'm going to go get it for you.
Wow.
And I'm like, no. And exactly what you said. I want to experience it myself. Right? Yeah. If I'm going to go do this. And then multiple times I went back in life.
And less shame.
But to be able to pay it, to try to pay it forward was a beautiful thing too, right? To serve in these places.
Yeah.
Right? To be able to serve and see that at another level. But the one gem that I found in all of this, right? When we're hunting for rocks or hunting for things, I'm a rock hound too. Sorry to say, I'm just saying.
No, that's awesome.
I love my rocks,
dude.
But the gem,
room.
But the gem that I found in all of this is when I was sitting there, and this humbling comes over, and I've accepted the food order, and this lady turns to me and says, "I would like to introduce you to my granddaughter." Okay, and I don't want anything to do with women at this point in my life. I'm like, when my kids are freaking old enough,
I'll take care of me.
I'll take care of me after that. When they're graduated from high school, that was my thinking, and I was like, I was poker faced at that. That wasn't gonna freaking change. When I walk out back to the truck with that food order, and I jump up in the truck, and I'm like going to start it, and I get that little thing that ranks me out of the truck, pulls me up to the door, and sits me there, and says, "Sister Bowen, I'd love to meet your granddaughter." Okay. And I'm sitting there and like, okay, Sister Bowen, I don't even got a job.
Yeah.
I don't even have like. What do you mean you want to like
Introduce me to your daughter.
You know, like this is weird stuff right now or whatever.
That's
right?
kind of funny. Hey, I'd like to set you up for failure. So I'm going to introduce you to my granddaughter, and but take us there, man.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm sitting in this situation. Go back home. Probably smoked another bowl.
As one does.
Okay, because I gotta sit and figure this shit out. This is some weird shit. Like I
Yeah.
just agreed that I'm gonna meet a woman when I like wrote it in a freaking contract for myself and signed for my boys.
That I'm
Like,
not going to do
I'm
this.
not gonna do this, right? Right. So I come back and I sit in it, and you know, one of the books I found along with those other two was a journal that I had when I was in 9th grade living in Enterprise. And I journaled the whole experience in Enterprise, like the whole freaking experience. And I was a hellion in Enterprise. If you got family members, they'll probably know Jeremy. Yeah, anyway.
That's hilarious.
As I'm sitting there and I'm contemplating this choice that I made, that I would tell a lady this, like this overwhelming feelings that I can't explain for a human came over me. And I woke up that night and wrote in the journal that this was somebody special. This was something. And I had feelings for this person before I ever even met him. I was just that weird kind of paradigm of something, right?
Yeah.
And we planned the time to meet, and she called me and says, hey, I want to invite you to our family Christmas party. Right, to me, like blind date, like we hadn't even, but I had done these little things because I'm like, I don't know, the freaking world. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, just follow
King
it.
Louis. I don't know.
Yeah.
Long. It was
Go
just
with it.
go,
King
just
Louis talked to you,
talking
dude.
to
He's
me,
like,
right?
Go there, bro.
Just go, dude.
Just do it, man.
do it. Just show up, and everything will be
What would
taken
King
care
Louis
of.
do, man?
Yeah, like just follow it. And so I do. I'd show up, walk through the doors of this thing. I'm going to a family, like a ward house. Even I'm going to a family Christmas, big ward, big family. So I walk through the doors. I can hear some giggling and a bunch of kids running around, and somebody yelled, and this girl comes down. I'm hearing this voice of like somebody that I know, and I'm like, whoa, this is weird. And look over, and it just happened to be this girl named Shay that used to do a lot of partying out at the sand dunes back in the day and riding.
I think
four-wheelers
everyone
and
knows a
stuff.
woman named Shay that parties at the sand dunes.
Right, maybe. So anyway, we start, and I'm like, hey, like, how you doing? Whatever. We'd known each other.
Yeah.
So just put all of these little paradigms together. But Jade showed up. That was her name, Jade. She was my gem. She was the rock I was looking for, see? And she showed up.
That's crazy.
Okay? And she walked through the door, and it was an embracing of this big hug. And we kind of started from there and went on a date the next night. And then I asked her to marry me the night after that.
Damn.
What?
Mormon boys move fast.
Dude, they do. That's awesome.
Can you believe that?
Yes.
wild.
Totally.
And so all of a sudden it kicked off this thing where we blended two families. She had a son. So I asked her to marry me on New Year's Day. I even like stood out in front of the temple, like right by the Joseph Smith Memorial, and like did the whole thing. Right? Did that whole thing. But we only known each other a week.
Yeah.
So it's like, you had to go quick or whatever. But along that journey, we ended up getting married about 90 days later. Because, like a couple of people that are married and things, it's hard to keep that. But we wanted to be married in the temple.
Yeah. And so you can't sleep with them before you get married.
You can't sleep with
'cause
them before you get married.
otherwise
because
you
it's a
can't
sin, right?
be within that marriage. Yeah.
And
it's like-
so, Jeremy, I mean, we tried the best that we could, and it just wasn't happening, like it just
it's
wasn't
hard
happening.
Yeah.
So, being two grown adults, right?
Yep.
Dude, you're saying all these things, and all I want to do is like, yeah, that's what she said.
That's what she said, right? Grown adults.
It was so hard.
So I was trying my hardest, but along that process, like obviously we didn't get the marriage that we set out to have,
Yeah.
But the marriage that you needed.
but the marriage we needed
Yeah.
happened, right?
Yeah.
And then a year later, we
You
were
got
able to
sealed.
be sealed in the temple. We had 2 daughters, so we have mine, yours, and ours.
I remember that movie.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
So that little part just kind of led, I kind of had a little bit of a thing that I never told her about the cannabis side of me at that time.
Yeah.
And I was still partaking along the process, like, because I needed my medication and I wasn't quite sure how I was going to
function without
function. But we're married. We're like all on, right? And things got a little bit, weird and crazy. And she found out about the cannabis at the time. And I wasn't, the right guy. And we ended up separating for a few months, right? But like anybody else would look in on this of like, what in the heck? Of course, it's because you got married so fast. And all of these things, right? But we held it all together. I mean, we held it together and we, like worked through it all. And I mean, we struggled. We had a minivan. I mean, I was an entrepreneur myself along the journey. Still am, right?
Just
that.
like me. Yeah,
but
I got both of us right now, fucker.
But the thing is what that started was I got a wife and I got a situation where I became a scoutmaster and I was building this little scout troop together that had 4 boys in it. And 3 of the 4 boys didn't have a dad. We were in West Valley. So 4 of them didn't have a dad. And so it kind of opened up this opportunity. I wanted to instill those things that I learned about camping and scouts and things and change some lives. And
oh, I like this. This is so man. I've been laughing over here and pointing because I'm just like I'm just thinking of how crazy this is, Brandon.
There's a million synchronicities.
Yeah.
Even when he was mentioning his ward name, I grew up in the Provo North 4th Ward. And like just so many similarities just in shit that I'm like,
It's
oh my gosh.
Well, this is meant to be, man. I mean, and I'm going to
It just it's filling up a lot because it's big. Okay. Yeah, that's all.
You're good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
In a total. Okay.
And it doesn't matter. We're
just chilling,
true
right?
cannabis community, man, nobody cares. Nobody cares. If you came in there brand new or you're super advanced, nobody's been like pussy
Right.
or rookie.
Take
No,
the hit
it's
you want, take the hit you need, and
yeah, and it's always open. I mean, you're already a part. I mean, you understand the culture completely, but that's the one thing that I've loved about cannabis is that it's the great uniter.
Right.
And if you just slow down,
so
you can see that. But
take
anyways.
us back through it now, because
Okay.
you're. I'm guessing you're with your wife still.
So we went ahead and honestly, I back that up, Scoutmaster, real quick.
Yeah.
Started,
the 4 boys.
4 boys. We wanted to get our camping award, right? And so if you camped every month of the year,
Yeah.
like, and so for a guy, we're like, we're gonna do this because these boys don't have dads, and if we can get out every month with these boys, that would be
great. Yeah,
an experience and
Impact their lives.
Impact their lives. And I took on the calling. Jeremy's got a tattoo. Oh, sorry. Jeremy's got a tattoo.
Nice.
Okay, along the way. And my first little experience with that was, I'd taken the boys. I told you there was 3 and a 4. The 4th boy come from an active family and stuff. And, here I'm being the scoutmaster taking him out. And the first time that I had this experience was the boy had gone home and told his mom that I had a tattoo. Okay.
I got one of those too.
And
yeah,
so then
this is funny.
the mom goes and tells
the dad.
ask the bishop. Okay, this was the weird part to think if she felt that I was the right guy.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
you have
to be
teaching your kids
scoutmaster or whatever because of
influence
the tattoo.
Kids.
And it really was this humbling thing of me of like, oh gosh, I got to like reevaluate. And it was kind of eye-opening for young Jeremy in the ward that there were people that were actually, like that.
Yeah.
Because when my story, I was put on kind of a pedestal. I mean, they put you on this, this kind of a thing where you feel good and it's an amazing feeling, right? I mean, we're getting into the roots. We're finding Christ. We're finding this vibration of just
this resonates.
I mean, you know what I mean? And then you're like, when you just put on the thing that it like all it's touted up to be.
Yeah.
Right. And that's that part where you're like, okay, this is me being me. Right. But I got to be real with it.
Yeah.
Right. And I really had to sit in that. And it was like, no, it's for the kids. And I learned to let it fall off of me, right? And we just kept on hunkering down and just kind of just doing it, right? Because I knew that the boys, it wasn't the it wasn't the parent. It was, because I'd seen the boy. Like, I knew who he was. He was just making an observation of like, hey, my dad don't have one. I mean, probably not too many people running around in his family that have them, right?
Or even the community.
Right? So that's that part of like, okay, well, this is okay. So I got to experience it firsthand right through the gates. It didn't stop me, right? I still kept it going, but I wanted to get us a little camping trailer that we could put all of our gear in. So we just roll up to it and we roll out of there. I was driving down Redwood Road and I'm sitting there and all of a sudden this guy is pulling this trailer out to the edge of Redwood Road, way north Redwood. And I just freaking pull off the side of the road. That's got to be my trailer. I mean, I'm looking at it, right? This is it. I roll back around. It needs work, man. It needs to be painted. It needs a floor put in it. It needs freaking lights put on it. It needs all of these. I mean, it needs I'm like, perfect. This is a project for Wednesday night. We're going to freaking teach them some crap. Bartered with the guy. We get it for $200. I feel like I'm in heaven and I roll out of there. I'm just stoked. Like, this is going to be the best thing ever, right?
Oh, yeah.
We get it home. We get the kids. We learn how to paint. We learn how to wire the trailer. We're doing all, because it's stuff my dad taught me, right? So you just want to, and then we're going to use it. And so we used the heck out of that trailer. I mean, we literally did. And it kind of got to this point where the next fall had come around and I was like, you know what? I don't want to park it in my yard this last year. I just don't want to store it. And so I'm just going to sell it because that's just Jeremy. Like, everything just repurposes or whatever. And I thought, another one will come and we'll do this again next year with the new Scouts, right? And we'll have our own trailer that we just do. This was the vision. So back in the day, we had the KSL. We didn't have KSL classifieds. We had the Thrifty Nickel, and we had the Thrifty want ads.
Yeah, you get over there like it's like in front of Albertsons, like when you're going at the checkout line.
Yeah, all those little little things and everything. Yeah. So it's like it was cheap advertising. Like, for cheap, you could run a weekend ad for $5 or whatever. So it was kind of cool, right? So I decide, well, I'm just going to throw it in there and see what happens. And I'd had 160 phone calls on the one trailer.
Jeez.
Okay. And I had the first person that came bought it. And so this was like, holy cow. Like, if I would have had this piece of junk 160 times, I could have sold it. I got to do something here. Like, something's like, how can I buy? Now, my father owned a welding and fabrication business, right? But him and I were too much alike and didn't see eye to eye. And so it was kind of like, hey, I finally was humbled and like, hey, can I come try to make a trailer?
Yeah.
Can I come try to do this? Like, will you let me do it? Will you teach me how to do it? Like, just, we're going to have a father-son project, right?
We're not going to throw the ball, but we're going to weld.
Right. We're going to sit here and this is what
cool.
we're going to do, right?
Yeah.
So Jeremy goes, gets all the materials, it all comes up. It was $200, like, for all the materials to build it. Okay.
Wow.
I go to his house. I cut it all up. And the one, it was $400. And I bought it for 200, sold it for 400, that concept, right?
Yeah.
So can I make this for $200? I don't know. If my dad teaches me,
Yeah.
Gosh, it took 2.5 weeks to build the first one. And I mean, because he was wanting to teach me his way, right? It was driving me freaking bonkers because, like, this is easy math. Let's get this shit going. I got to sell this shit. Like, what the hell? Right? But my dad's trying to be the mentor, teach me a lesson, and I had to go through all his hurdles and hoops, right? So as this time comes and we explode, and I'm like, to hell with you. And I've got enough money to buy my own damn welder.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go build this trailer in my freaking garage. Okay?
I just saw you pop up like that. I was imagining like a little kid, like, I'll show you.
Well, in a way,
I can survive on my own.
Well, in a way, I was probably listening to Snoop Dogg and it was like,
okay.
He was probably more gangster at that time.
Yeah.
Some Eminem. I mean, there was some.
Wait, I have a real question. Did you think you were black at one point in your life?
I did.
Oh my God.
That's so funny. So did Brandon. That's so nuts.
I was in a gang. I was in a gang. I mean, like, They called me J-Ball,
Oh,
the white
dude,
boy with the Letterman's jacket.
that's hilarious.
That's hilarious, dude. That's
This is really funny, man.
crazy. Like,
really funny.
it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
right?
Well, it's
supposed to happen.
I'm just saying. I mean, Snoop still is dear to my heart. We're gonna give him a putter too. We're gonna throw that out there.
Oh, real quick, we need to talk about that.
Oh, well, that's. I figured that would come into play when we finished how the
Okay.
story of how you met.
Okay, I'm just gonna. You guys can see that. All right.
And this.
Yeah.
And the
you-
key.
We'll
Scale.
get all of this. We'll get to hear all about this. Anyways, continue.
Look at my
where were we
shaft.
though?
Depends on where we're jumping. Are
We
we
were
Well, where
at-
do you want to hear from? Because we had a couple of
Because
things.
what we
and
were
I'm
talking
trying to
about
bring-
the tattoo.
tattoo, bringing that back around.
Yeah, the kids and the
So
kids saw you.
the trailer, Dad,
so you're building that
Dad,
out.
I
Oh,
learned
making-
dad stuff.
Yeah.
and
Making
now I'm
trailers.
at my own garage at
Right,
my
because
house.
you don't need him anymore.
Don't need him anymore. I've
Okay.
totally obsoleted that.
Roger
Burned,
that.
burned the bridge. I mean, I was peeling out probably when I left. Like
Probably.
literally Jerry Springer stuff. Probably. Just kidding.
Dude, that's
But-
funny you brought that up.
No,
Anyway.
just kidding. Just kidding. Anyway, so as this little journey goes on, I started manufacturing these little trailers in the garage of my house. The first one took 16 hours. I just had to figure out how to make them faster because I knew I could sell them for $400. So I was able to get the concept all the way down and I could build them in 2.5 hours. So I was
that's
paying
fantastic.
myself $75 an hour in a part-time job in the garage of my house after work.
Yeah.
And I would put the ad in and sell 4 of them every weekend because I could do one every night when I came
Oh,
home.
that's fantastic.
And when
yeah.
my son got old enough, he was cutting the material when he got home from school because
That
we had
gives you
a cut
hand.
list,
Yeah.
right? So we were
Oh,
like,
that's beautiful.
doing this little
Wow.
process.
Like, I need these parts. Just cut these.
But
and
was
then-
it we were making the same one,
Yep.
right? It was just like boom,
Yeah.
boom,
It's
boom,
just
boom, boom.
templates.
It was
Turning
just,
it
it was
out.
just coming,
Oh,
right?
that's beautiful.
So we're sitting there and this little concept is happening and we're building trailers and everybody's coming and saying like, hey, could you do this to it or could you do that? And I'm like, okay, so this is where the trailer guy was born.
Oh, cool.
You sent an email to the trailer guy at
Yeah,
MSN.com, right? So this is where the trailer guy was born. So all from me being a scoutmaster, given a little love, turned into this little side hustle I had going. Okay. Well, then the side hustle ended up turning into us moving to Tooele County, Utah. Okay. I went kicking and streaming, never thought in the world that I would ever
Wow.
be a Tooele-billy and live there and whatever else. And I'm not saying that like at the
Tooele-billy.
time.
Tooele-billy, dude. That's
Tooele-
the first
if-
for me,
if-
and I
if
grew up here.
anybody-
Yeah, me
if-
too.
That's awesome. Tooele-billy. Okay.
I love
if
that.
Perfect.
If anybody listening, I didn't mean that in a bad way.
No. I mean, but during that time,
But
though,
during the time in the
100%.
period, and
Yeah.
and my wife and I, when we were deciding to move out there, was literally like, let's go to the Walmart and like just check it out and see how it is because you're not.
oh, they
quite
had a
sure.
Walmart there. That's
Yeah.
cool.
But it was where do you find a house for the cheapest? And this particular house we found like had a 6-car garage in it. Like, we're gonna produce some serious trailers
Yeah.
out of there, right?
It's a lot of work.
Babe,
space.
we're moving, right? So we move out there. I'm still working a job at the time at the Dannon Yogurt Factory.
I know what you're talking about.
Graham packaging. So I'm
Yeah.
driving around the mountain every day, right? So I've got a lot of headspace, a lot of time.
Yeah.
I'm not cannabis at this time. I'm just Zolofton and just keeping life going and different things. And so this is kind of happening and you know, it was a good time of our life. I started this good side hustle. We were doing good. Ended up with a gentleman in my ward out there, right? That ended up saying, hey, you're a trailer guy. You're building trailers. Like our company is hiring for somebody out at Dugway Proving Grounds for ITT, Advanced Engineering and Sciences, for a mechanical engineer. Would you like to come and fill the role? And I'm like, what? Like, how's that possible? I don't know. Like, we need somebody that knows how to build trailers. I'm like, I've been doing it out of the garage of my house, and now we're already going to freaking this level or whatever. Like, sweet, okay. So I ended up saying, sure, I'll fill out an application and got the job. And ended up designing like these trailers for the Department of Defense to build biochem systems for detecting, you know, different stuff. So
That's crazy.
I spent 3 years doing that. Was in Alexandria, Virginia, like kind of
That's
doing
cool.
mob hobbing and doing all that good stuff, just spending buckets of money. But it started where the trailer business came. And when that contract came to an end, I was not able to, they got rid of the program. And so I wasn't hired on for another program. But I took that contract that we had and was able to get another contract. And so we started making these systems. And then when that all went bad, we kind of rolled into oil field and gas. My brother showed up needing a trailer to go to North Dakota to haul frack water, and
Wow.
craziest thing ever happened again, just all these stories. But I became the trailer guy and spent the next 10 years building trailers and did a bunch of cryogenic tanks and things for
That's right,
things-
cryogenic tanks,
tanks.
which is
That's
crazy.
wild.
Yeah.
Where is that used?
Well, that's for LNG, liquid natural gas. So it was a kind of a period in kind of during Mitt Romney's little run of things
Yeah.
where we were doing clean energy and trying to transfer everything to LNG.
Huh.
And so I was instrumental with some tankers, because there was Chart Industries was the only company in the U.S. that made them at the time. And I'd partnered up with a company out of China called CINC Einrich, and they were the world's largest, but we were their U.S. dealer. We were I was their dealer supplier.
here.
Yeah,
You've been
we
a
were
dealer a bunch of times.
yeah, so lots of dealing. Yeah, lots
Yeah.
of dealing, baby. That's all we're doing is always just wheeling and dealing. So
That's wild.
so
dude.
anyway, so that little thing, the humble beginnings of a trailer company, did end up in a very good sized organization building. My biggest trophy, I call trailers as my trophies, was a propane transport trailer. There's only 3 manufacturers in the United States, and Jeremy decided he wanted to be number 4.
Wow.
And so we did it all the way down to just burning it down. It just I had one little piece of metal in the tanks that were bad, and it just opened a new chapter of life. And so the trailer guy just kind of, in that big scale, just got to figure life out after that.
Man.
You know?
And what do you do now?
I'm a greenskeeper at a golf course in Salt Lake City, Utah. I mow the greens and make sure the grass stays growing perfectly.
Sounds like a really chill life.
It's not too bad. It's not too
Yeah.
bad at all. I just kind of take it easy. I just, help out humans. That's just all I do. It's helping humans, just doing it every day. Just
See, and that dovetails really good to finishing what I had started earlier. How we met, he came to help us with the tire. When we got the tire replaced at a place that he told us to go. It's like out of the 1990s, small place. I was so happy that you recommended it, because they really appreciate the business.
right.
And there's these 2 young kids, and they've got oil marks on their face, and it's all over their arms and their hands. And it was cool to see, because you don't see that with youth a lot, where they're going to be doing hard work, and it's hot as balls in this little place. And they're like, oh, we have a waiting room. And you go in this waiting room, and it's a small waiting room, and it is so cold in there. And there is tons of drinks. Like, you see the other
Oh,
one,
yeah.
you're like, this thing is, the waiting room is going to be awful. Like, there's going to be a smell in there. I know it, right?
Right.
That's what you would think. But then when you go around the corner, and it was just nice. It's like they care so much about taking care of the customer.
It's
They
the
don't-
newer generation. That younger one's really about people.
Yeah.
Like,
And they are.
They really are. And that's,
yeah.
and I get to see it every day, because I do hire, college kids, a lot of times coming in.
Yeah.
And so you do get a bunch of personalities. You do get, younger ones coming from, I've been employing a couple of swimmers from the University of Utah swim team, right? And trying to getting into,
That's
helping them out, like doing
Yeah.
things and just seeing this life. But they are so full of,
Yeah, they want to help.
life. They want to help. They really do.
It's, and it's an awesome change. But when you see this, I was just like, wow, this is so cool. And Kim and I were just, we're like, oh, this is great. And then we get back, and we're putting the tire back on, and it's a pain in the ass, fuck cheap. And so when we're doing it, I was screwing on the bolt, and we're talking, and he's tightening them up over here with his drill, and the thing just keeps getting stuck on the bit it was so bad.
Oh, and you have to like hammer them off, and
it's hot. I mean, I mean, when you're sitting here, you're like, okay, I've signed up to do this.
Yeah. I mean, it was
because he's even signed up too. Like, and it's like you can't turn back. When I saw him walking down, like I see this, and I'm like, okay, who's this guy? I'm like, okay, this is cool. And he calls it, hey, do you have a 15 or a 14 millimeter socket? He knew what he wanted, right? Yeah, here you go try him. And it came over me that brief of like, why are you already know that the car, because my daughter's back. So I literally was like, just grab the jack and throw it in the thing and just go out there and like, just jack
it's
it
only
up
going
for
to
him.
take a minute.
It's only going to take a minute, right? But those lug nuts. And here's the thing, when they got back with it, and I was sitting there and I'm like, I don't want to put those freaking lug nuts back on. Like I didn't want to try to tighten them on, right?
Yeah.
And Kim came to find me to like, hey, she's looking all over it. I finally come out of the office. Oh, okay, let me come help you, And I was dreading putting those freaking lug nuts on just to get them started.
Oh yeah.
I'm telling you, like when you're given service like that and like you show up and like the guy that's there has already got them back on. And I'm sitting there going like, dude, this guy's kind of cool. Like he freaking funny. Put those lug nuts on, right? And like you take it from there. Please.
Yeah, so we're putting on, but Kim and I are talking. So 12 Shapes again. I mean, I met Kim and I'll rewind to really be able to kind of deliver that impact, because what it was crazy was Kim and I are talking about the business of 12 Shapes. She's grown it for so long. She's been doing this for 25 years. She has people that have gone through her program 20 years ago and say, I still use it to this day. My marriage is awesome. My relationship with my kids is awesome. My relationship with me is awesome. It's so cool. And so we were talking, and we're going to grow this even bigger and get more people what I'm experiencing. Look, we need the whole world to that. And we're talking about 12 Shapes all morning. And she says something about 12 Shapes. And Jeremy's like, you guys know about 12 Shapes? And we're both like, how do you know about 12 Shapes? He's like, well, this guy on this podcast.
The very morning.
Yeah.
Like I'm out mowing greens because I mow the greens every day, right? It's part of my meditation.
Yeah.
Right. So I put on the sesh. It was Friday morning. This was Thursday. So I'm waking up in the morning, putting the sesh on, right? And so I'm listening. I do it every morning on Fridays. Okay. You guys are my go-to.
Yeah.
Right. Or Friday mornings.
That still seems really weird to me.
And so I'm sitting there, and so I'm hearing it that morning. I'm hearing it, and I'm like hearing it, and just that's cool stuff. I got to look into that. I mean, because that's where I am in this growth pattern that I'm in too, right? And so that's when she says it, and I'm just like, well, that's really cool. I mean, it like
I just barely heard that. Yeah.
Well, that's really cool. Like, and it was so fresh in my mind. I'm like, I just heard. Well, she's like, where did you hear that? And I said, well, on a podcast I listened to. She's like, well, what podcast? Like what this? Yeah. Well, Cannabis School. She freaking dropped to her knees, dude. She's just like, oh my god, like.
And I turn around,
and she's like, do you know who that is? And I'm like, who? Like.
And and this is the funny part, because this is what happens. So this hat, I got into these like paperboy hats. I don't know why. I just got into it.
You really like Newsies.
Yeah, or I'm 45 and I'm just like, well, just lean into it, brother. I mean, it's all fucking white anyway. So, but I'm wearing that, and people don't recognize me. Like I was at a farewell for my buddy's daughter who's going on an LDS mission. And this woman, I have been friends with her husband for years. I wear a kilt I'm the deputy commissioner for Clan Campbell in Utah. Okay. And it's through bloodline on my wife's side. And I'm in a kilt. I go to church with a kilt on because it starts a conversation.
I love it.
I got tattoos, right. I smoke pot, and I got a kilt. We got a lot to talk about.
Right.
But she looks me up and down like I'm some transvestite or something, like, because this is Utah, and she's an old school woman, so she looks me up and down, and I laugh in my head. I go, she doesn't remember me. Oh, this is awesome.
That's hilarious.
And then she looked, and I'm all, well, see you later, Mike. That's what I said.
You did.
Yeah, and she just like goes, and I'm like, I am going over to see her husband. He's in his 70s, and he's a good friend of mine. And I was just like, I'm going to go over there wearing the kilt. It's like, you look You like judging people, do you? Right?
He's even got
No
that.
way. Over there, I'm coming here in your dress.
Your dress.
Don't worry about it. Look at this. Someone lift it up. You're gonna be able to get a real good peek of me. But it was just crazy because when I wear this hat, nobody recognizes me. When I took off my hat, he goes, oh my gosh. And he just gets he gets tears in his eyes and then he gets goosebumps on his arm. And I'm like, oh, and he picks me up off the ground, just giving me the biggest hug.
I got one of those this morning. It was
Yeah,
fantastic.
and it was.
It's just me, guys. It's me. It's just
I
you.
fucking loved it.
And
It
he's
was
like, there's
amazing.
no way you are here right now. And if you think about that, like that morning, Kim's tire pops. It pulls over at this golf course. And I didn't have my debit card with me, so she would pay for it for me to go with her because she was like, no, I'm going to take an Uber. I'll call the insurance. I'm like, no, I'll go with you. I'll do it. And this whole purpose of like, I am where I'm supposed to be. I don't go away from it. And for me, it's always like for me and maybe for you or some other people that are like, it's universe, but I truly believe God's talking to me going, do this. Like talk to that homeless guy. Like that voice comes in.
Well, and that's that recognizing that voice and having faith in what you're hearing.
Yeah, just
right?
do it.
Just do it.
Just act
do
on
it.
it.
Just act on it. Like don't think about it. Just do it. Because that's where you kind of. But the thing is like in my world without cannabis, okay, like it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm not trying to say that that's good or bad or ugly. I don't know. Like, but I'm sitting here saying like it's like my way of life the last 5 years, and I mean even the last 3 years of just coming clean to my wife about my cannabis use, right? Of what that freed up to free up conversations for my wife to finally say like, oh my gosh, it's not all as bad as actually you are a better human with it. Like, I wish we would have had it, earlier on in life, you know what I mean? Like, or whatever, like, right. And so,
because they can see that.
because
like,
they
oh,
see the
shoot.
change. And I mean, and I think this is the ones like to turn around and like, I kind of mentioned a little bit before, like I in this journey had to go to jail, guys, for, 25 days, I told you, or whatever,
Yeah.
the 30-day
Yeah.
sentence. Right. And so when you're coming out of that and you're like having to, when your daughters are sitting with you when you're being sentenced, and you're leaving and you're like looking inward on that kind of situation of like, what got you? I mean, what got you here? What are you learning from this? What are these
Yeah.
things, right? And so they could sit and blame it on 10,000 different things, right? So putting that puzzle piece together that I got a chance to do it again, right? And me be able to prove that through this process, what is the one thing that changed? I put cannabis into my life. That's the one thing of all of this that changed, and I looked inward because it talked to me and it gave me that ability to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, to know who I am, right? The primary song, right? I mean, yeah, it just opens up that gate for that to work, right?
Yeah. No.
And that's where I just had to come to that reality of it is good. Like, it's not bad. And when your wife finally jumps on board, like, it now lifts you to a whole nother level of being able to accomplish things that, what's the unknown.
Yeah.
Right. And then when they accept it and they're like, okay, well, maybe we'll even try a little bit. You know what I mean? Well, maybe try a little bit and maybe we'll.
Because they see how it impacts you and what it does for you.
The thing is, I did a situation where going through the line, I ended up with Delta 8 because you couldn't quite get cards yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to do it as legal and by the book as I possibly can. Right. And my wife she just seeing this change in me, and I'd lost more weight and I'd putting meditation in, and we'd even started doing a little bit of meditation, and I still hadn't told her that I was, I said, I'm using CBD.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's really what it
It's
is.
in it.
It's in it, right? So I'm not lying, right? Because
There's
it's in
CBD
it.
in it.
Right.
Because it's in it, right? And so I'm sitting there, anyway, so I have it in my top drawer of and she knows where it is. I mean, we were keeping everything open. I'm not hiding shit. This is my life, right?
Yeah, but
full book.
Yeah.
So I leave and she's like, you know what? Like, that's been helping him with his weight. You know, he's been doing so good. Like I think, you know, maybe I might just need to try some. Okay. And so she gets in the bag. It was, I don't know at the time, it's Delta 8 stuff, but they were 50 milligrams on the gummy.
Oh, and she ate that whole thing.
And she didn't know dosing either.
Yeah.
She didn't know whatever, and freaking took that gummy
Oh.
and ended up at work.
Oh
Oh no.
no!
How did that go?
She got a phone call, didn't you?
Oh, I got it. What is in here? And I'm like, oh shit. Like, I mean, this is,
What a way
you
to
said
find.
this was just CBD. No, you should be taking more CBD. What the hell? Like get back home. And she won't do nothing. She's hiding in the bed, like covering her head. I was the devil at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you give this
Why
to
did you
me?
give this? You told me it was just CBD. So it's another level of like, okay, now we got to have the hard conversation again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Because that trust.
That trust is now broken again. And so you're like, okay, but I promise it was, but that's the process. You got to, I mean, at least mine, I'm telling the
It's
story
your
of being
journey to
honest
get
about
through
it.
Yeah.
Right? If there's any other guys out there that are struggling with the same thing, like, you know, like we'll help you out. I mean, I don't know what to say about that. But it's a thing where you got to be true and honest with yourself. And if you're not going to be able to get to the elevation of where you can be to be your best self and help all the people that are around you. Right? Like, you got to own it. You got to own it. Be true to yourself first, and everything else will fall into place.
Yeah, and truly, man. I mean, I feel like that, and you know, it's like, you know, and Brandon knows. I've said this to him many times, but you know, I truly believe that, you know, God placed Brandon in my life the right time because He brought me into it. If I would have done anything different, you know, that's why I don't look at any type of anything I've ever done in my life with regret. Like, I would be the worst person to contend with in a political campaign because it'd be like, oh, well, you did this shit when you were 21. I'm like, yeah, it was pretty awesome. Anyways, next question. Right? Because I would be like, I don't care. I'll lean into it. Like, oh, you were a bigot and kind of a racist. Yep. Both of those. Guilty as charged. Next question. What would you like to ask her? Because it doesn't matter to me. It's gone. It's not real anymore. And you know, I try to live with that all the time, every day. And it's just amazing that you can get to this point where you just go, look, I'm going to accept these things and I'm going to feel it. And God brought Brandon into my life, he brought cannabis into my life through Brandon. Right. I mean, Brandon was being a missionary, and he would never admit that. But he was being a missionary in his own. He was. Why did he bring it to me? Why?
Well, and that's that point of like when I finally came to the thing, like during this journey, my when I had the boys and was a single dad, my mom would take the kids usually like once a month for me. So I could have boys time, right? Or whatever. And there was a little bar down on State Street called the 3 Alarm Saloon.
Oh, I've been there. Yep.
Okay.
I was a bouncer there. Yeah.
Okay. So the 3 Alarm Saloon. I mean, it could tell stories, and this is weird because that's the part of like, it was a pretty hip place. I mean, it was whatever, right? But I had buddies that liked to go there. Yeah. But they would drink. But guess what? Jeremy didn't drink. I just smoked weed. Yeah. Okay. So I was always given the keys and was the sober driver. Okay.
Sober driver.
Well, yeah, sober driver. I was. I mean,
I'm just super calm when I drive. So yeah.
Well, anyway, the point of that part was like when it came time to go, we'd go back to certain places, and you'd get all these people. We'd have an after party. Yeah. I'd drive them to the after party. We'd now get them high, okay, because there's no more booze. Yep. We'd now get them high. And then I would sit there and freaking preach the gospel to them, dude. Like, okay, and like tell them some shit, like, because, and they would sit there, dude, and this is where I was like, dude, you're the marijuana Mormon, and that's where I got deemed that freaking
How old
thing.
were you when you got started?
Well, I got started.
Being called the marijuana Mormon?
Yeah, at 22. That was through this process because there was no better place because remember, it's forbidden fruit. I knew it was the forbidden fruit. So all cannabis to me was the forbidden fruit. So I'd start telling them the whole story. Yeah. While they were high and coming off of being drunk. And half of them they'd all be members. And you'd always end up with, well, my dad's a stake president and he didn't say it like that. And I said, I know, because like he didn't know.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, he didn't know.
He didn't know. You're right. But he didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the thing of coming in is you're just a marijuana Mormon too. Well, right? We're all just marijuana Mormons.
He used to be, so he's no longer
Yeah.
in the
No
church.
longer. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been out of the church for a long time.
I left and I went Christian for a bit, and then I don't know what my relationship is now.
Yeah, and he's on the journey.
So, well, and the reason that I'm going to say that you can still fit in that classification is even if it's saying, it's just part of even your DNA.
True.
Oh, it's all of my family. Like
It's
it's
That's
5 generations
well,
deep.
see,
Yeah.
and it's I'm 5 to 6 on
Yep.
me. So that's that part of like
it's
like
ingrained in
I've evolved
everyone.
to a point where we can have a lot of conversations because I've, like it's still a realm for me. I mean, I still embrace the church. I still embrace a lot of the things because it's who I am, right? It's a journey that I've been on to just try to do good,
Yeah.
right? To try to do good, but I'll never be able to walk away from who I am
But I
and
don't
who
think
my
you ever
DNA
should,
is, right?
You know.
Right, 100%. And so that's that part where it's like I owned it, and that's the part of like it just fit, right?
Yeah.
That's what brought us together here at this point. Like this story, the whole
Truly.
thing, it just comes to the cannabis
It was a
and
beautiful synchronicity.
the
Well,
synchronicity of all of it.
And here's the really cool part, guys. And I'm going to have Jeremy explain all of it because this is really cool. So when he's saying, like, we get introduced, he gives me a hug. He goes, I have something for you. And I'm like, what the hell? And he takes us back into his office and he shows us this putter. Well, he was talking about a putter. He had a different putter, but he was explaining it because he had made these for us. But the whole story, dude, you're better at explaining it. Explain it for me.
Well,
Because we'll go to the keys. The keys is the coolest part of this story, dude. So start back. Like you used to collect keys when all through your life.
all through my life. I mean, if you go and look in my drawers, anywhere that you're gonna find keys. I have keys on my keychain,
Just to
right?
have them.
Well, that I don't even know what they go to, right? So this has just been that thing. You're just like, okay, what is this? What is this thing to keys? I can go in and we'd sit and we can even activate AI in this and say, okay, on my social media, like what's been fun. I mean, I can show you guys crazy things that have even manifested with that of it knowing me pretty well and sending me even stuff that has to do with keys. And so it's not like this OCD thing or anything or whatever, but it's just
something that
that pulls me. It's just something that like catches
Yeah.
my mind, right?
Yep.
And along this journey, like I ended up, like I said, I went to jail. One of my sentencing things that I was sentenced to was I needed to be evaluated and have a therapist in place to be able to, see what I needed to do. And so I had to seek finding those things. And I just wanted, I wanted to be able to protect that I used cannabis,
Mm-hmm.
right? I didn't want that with the law to like border anything and just wanted to stay strong with that a little bit. And so I was choice about who I found. And I just happened to find Cliff Uckerman at Outpatient Behavioral Health in Salt Lake City. That happened to bring me in and was able to introduce me a little bit more to what cannabis therapy is and how to use it in a therapeutics, setting. And just gave me some tools to be able to work with through that process, which kind of led me down the path of, really trying to get into some deep meditation and get into finding who I am and kind of using the cannabis tool to kind of get rid of old trauma. And, it gave me those tools to work down that path. And so I started putting that all together. And, as I started learning about vibration and energy and what, that as they're classified, in a number scheme, it kind of made sense to me of like, fear, guilt, shame are all low vibrational, vibrations. And so as I started like saying, okay, like applying the cannabis with the therapy against the little word things that we sit and draw through all the time, like part of our, as part of this is just therapy. So I started doing a meditation and just doing like therapeutic, like this is what I want things to look like, or this is how I'm going to orchestrate things. And I was able to tie into those traumas. And I kind of learned that like through creativity that you can shed those things,
Layers
like
of
layers
charm.
of onion. I like to call it, like just shedding that onion, you know. And so as I was doing this, like I was getting results. I was getting tons of results, and I'm like, this is just awesome. And I had this vision where I've always worked with my hands. I've always just been very, you know, and I kind of realized in life I'd kind of forgot how to do that, right? And so it was like, no, I got to tap back into that because that's going to bring something good. And so I sat down and I'm like, you know what? Like, what are you going to do? And I just happened to have this experience where I'm not a golfer. I work at a golf course, but I do not know anything about golf. It was always too kind of frustrating for me. But there was a gentleman at the first tee, Paul Pugmire. He runs the first tee of Utah, which they do veterans golf and things. And he said, "Hey, I want to get you your first set of clubs." And he took me over to the warehouse where they got all these clubs, and came time to pick a putter. And he's like, "Well, you know, picking a putter's kind of like picking like a wand. It's like Harry Potter's wand. It's just gonna call out to you." And they like have this whole freaking thing of putters, and I'm just like, dude, that's a lot of putters. Like, this is crazy. Like, and you just want me to choose one? He's like, no, it'll choose you, you know? And I'm just like, hey, I kind of believe in this shit, so that's okay. Like, we'll see. So I reached up on the thing and I kind of pulled this one putter out, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And pulled another one out, and he's like, well, yeah, you better take two. You know, you'll figure out which one you like. Well, that second one I pulled out, it said the Cadillac on it. Okay, and I'm like, the Cadillac? A Cadillac freaking putter? That's pretty freaking. If Cadillac can make a putter, why can't I? Right?
Right.
Why can't I? So it
Yeah.
kind of started those things. And it wasn't until a point when they got this donation to the first tee of these clubs and stuff that had come in. Got this big old box, and we'd gone down, and Brent we started tearing them apart, and I pulled one out. And as I pulled the club out and the shaft, it said on it, the key. And that was the exact moment that I knew, like, because I searched, just find keys, right, in life.
Yeah.
That it was like, wait a minute.
That's it.
That's it. Like, between, if Cadillac can make a putter, why can't you? And now you have some shafts and it says the key on it. You better do something with it. So again, trial and error. What are you going to do? I first wrote it down on paper, and then I've got a whole, like, each stage that it went through and it was heartfelt, like, okay, who's this supposed to go to? And when I finally got down to the last, I mean, I had 10 of them that I handmade, each one of them. Blood, sweat, and tears. I mean, I even ended up at my father's home where he passed away 2 years ago. And, you know, we had a kind of a tough relationship. You know, we're just too much alike. But I ended up at his house because I was kind of I'm in humble stages again in life. Being at the golf course has been very humble. Okay. And so that thing of, like, the old Jeremy would have went out and just bought all the machinery I needed to make the stuff, you know, but like, I'm not on that budget anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to be resourceful, right? And I'm like, you know, and almost at times you think like maybe Dad was talking to me saying, hey, run over to my house and like grab this stuff. It's there and you can use it. I did that, man. Went and got it from my dad's house, brought it, you know, to the back of the golf course, and started my journey, because the time, like, each one I think took me about almost probably 6 hours,
Oh,
you
wow.
know, to sit and sand and do all the things because I wanted to make them just perfect. And then I had to figure out that I can't make them all perfect. Each one of them are just going to be however the hell they show up, because I don't have control of that, which is another inefficiency that I had to learn that I'm doing, right? But as I did that, I had to sit and, like, I started, like, have this thing like, who would I give one to, or who would I, right? And it was like, no, it doesn't matter. It'll manifest itself whenever it's supposed to come. And I've been going on my normal routine, you know, home on and listening to you guys for a long time. And I had done a meditation, and I came in, and this was what I wrote after the meditation. And it's just all of these things in life that I needed to do. And there's a bunch of check marks on them. And down here in the bottom, I had this idea of, like, it would be really cool to do a podcast, the Marijuana Mormon. And I wrote right below it, contact Cannabis School. Okay, because always at the end of your thing, you guys have the thing about Spotify or whatever, and it's really easy and all this other stuff. And so it was like, oh gosh, I gotta, but I gotta get them first. And so I like had this thing of these care packages you got today were like already sitting in the PGA building. Like all of my guys, they're like blown away because like we've had this discussion. They've listened to the sesh. Like there's all these things, right? And so like when all of these things came together, it just was like how did we make this?
How did we make this happen?
Like how did all this just happen? And like
everything.
I'm really like freaking here and just like hanging out with you guys and just just doing this thing. And that's, I don't know, it's just weird. I mean goosebumps. It's just a paradigm of weirdness. To go back to the shapes, one of the big things that Jesse did right out of the the gates there was made me feel loved. He reciprocated the love that I threw out to him, and was automatically already knew what he had to do. Right. And he sends me here, take this shapes quiz, And so when you first get pushed on something like, oh God, he's just trying to sell something, right? He's just trying to sell. No, let me tell my story.
No, I'm just sitting here.
But that's where you come out, you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll open it up. And again, because when you're self-checking, the universe does not bring you things like you better freaking do what's happening, right? And then you get to the point and you're like, shit, he wants me to put my email in? Good gosh, like, well, okay, well, I guess I can do that, right? But what it unlocked, because this just happened to be a date weekend for me and my wife, okay? So I process it, and I did this, and I'm telling her all about it. I mean, this is just, you're just mind blowing. This is just happening, And my wife's, she's an oval. She's an oval.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Jesse, I mean, like, my wife, he wants to know my wife. He sends me the stuff, and so we just happen to be up in Wyoming, and we're having our date and reading this stuff. And I cannot explain to you what it opened up just by two humans having this little thing to say, oh my gosh, that's how I am. And oh my gosh, and you're not trying to do this to me. And you're not we had this new realization of like, oh my gosh, this is a whole new level of friendship that I didn't know could exist. Now we've been working through that the last few days. It's a work in progress, right?
Oh, totally.
But to have that blueprint,
it's a cheat sheet
to know that
this is how they act. This is who they are, and that's how they're wired.
And they're not doing it to try to hurt me. Like
you can just see when they're in their positive state or their negative state.
Well, even if they're in a negative state, you can go,
yeah.
Well, they're just saying this out of a place of love because they want these things for me. Oh, okay. So you don't go in with, I got to be right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's that part of like all the tools in my toolbox that I've got up to this point. I thought I was like pinging, right? And this like opened up a new toolbox of like, okay, well, this is...
Dude, it's the funniest thing that you're like, oh, he's trying to sell me. Like I have been purposeful on that because I know what it's done for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have all the shapes and stuff like that. I have the full reports.
Mm-hmm.
And all I tell somebody is like, take it, put my name in there so the email campaign doesn't go to you. Because if you don't put my name in there, you don't select me as a coach, it will send you into this email campaign. And it's not good right now, but it's great. I say that and they go, oh, you want my email? No. So the emails don't come to you. The only thing you're going to get is the shape.
Okay.
And I go, take it.
Right.
Have fun. And then always people go, well, how much does this cost? I'm like, no. Something has changed my life. And there's two things it's not. It's not an MLM and it's not a supplement. And they go, okay, well, what do I got to do for it? Take it and I'll give it to you. And then what do I do with that threat? If you have any questions, let me know. It's it. Like
it speaks for itself. I mean,
it really does.
It does. I think that's that part. And that's where I come to just, being able to be so blessed to be able to meet Kim and Jesse in all of that, right? In that journey of just putting it together, like, is mind blowing. I mean, to have this experience in my life to share truth. I mean, that's what it freaking boils down to, is just being honest.
Yeah. And being
true.
And that's one of the things I've loved about that, Brandon, and I always say that because, it wouldn't have worked out the way it did, man. It wouldn't have worked out the way it did.
Right.
And I had to meet his cousin marry her, not really be friends. I used to hang out with his brother, and then this just happened. Like, I was in a bad spot in my life, and he's like, dude, you need a job? Well, the call center I work at's hiring. You should get it over there. And he was so awesome to me. Like, he showed me how to do it. This is like my first sales job. And he's like, this is how you do it. And he gives me a quick win and gave me the sale. And I see it pop up on the board. I'm like, this guy's all right. And yeah, he is. He's brought me into this. And I've always been doing the same. Like, we're always looking out for each other. But cannabis will do that with almost anybody. If you know, like, the fact that you had cannabis and that we both used cannabis and we met each other when we did, instant bond.
Yes.
Instant bond.
Instant.
And it's just
and it's like that in every situation anytime it comes
anywhere
around to it.
Doesn't it though?
Yeah.
Anywhere. So there's no mistakes in it, and it was so awesome because it just feels so amazing to be able to do that. And you're going to be making all these putters.
Well, that's the thing is I've handmade the tan. I've still got 2 left to give away. The first one that I presented created a very, generous situation to be able to make it grow a little bit more and to make it more, more profitable. We had, and then, like these little things came in to push us to building kind of like a political putter. But I'm all for trying to help with PTSD. Been in a situation where, trying to not quite sure what all that looks like right now, like the framework of it all, but, to helping, convicts or, felons, getting out of jail, wanting to change their life like they do with the Tribal House of Utah. They're helping guys and using cannabis to be able to, help them further their lives, giving them a new start, right? New direction. So there's things that are out there. But I think it comes down to the awareness, though, to hear a little bit more of the good stories that are out there surrounding cannabis. And I think that's what this has done, has been able to open up that opportunity, to be able to do it. And that's what I'm so grateful for. Yeah. Is just, to be able to experience it, to be able to be a part of what's happening, because consciousness is it's coming, guys. Like, it's come, like we got to learn about it. It's just a phase of this life that we're in, and we've just got to accept it. And the thing is we're reaping the rewards by being able to do it. It's unlike anything that's out there. I mean, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful. And you have this organization. Tell us about this organization.
Well, this is a little situation where I have a DJ. It was one of my employees, and he has an amazing life that he's kind of lived. He ended up becoming an employee, like I said, and just kind of through, cannabis and just talking and just being real. He came up with the Greenskeepers. I was the greenskeeper, of the place, and I started making these putters because my first one was it's a big freaking cannabis leaf. It was just, it looked so gaudy and ugly, but it served the purpose because it had to start somewhere, right? And so as that came on and just kept collaborating, and I kind of pushed him, okay, we got to get the website going. We're going to find somebody, and he did his due diligence, but I was just there as the probe, just kind of like, hey, we're going to do this. And he'd be on me. Are we getting the putter done? Or are you doing your, as little help? Yeah. And as the kind of two came together, it just, it was kind of a golf club kind of a thing. We both have different, purposes of it, but he's got a dream of, trying to promote, cannabis golf tournaments that, is a place where we can come together with cannabis on a golf course and really.
That would be fantastic.
We have tents in key places, and you can
stop and sesh at,
or whatever, as long as you can. I mean, however we can make that work. But if we could bring the property, but bringing the
Yeah, that's true.
Well, bringing the cannabis, world somewhere and bringing it together, whatever that looks like, I don't know. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
Well,
lot of
but I
things.
mean, I think that's the great thing with the starting with the putter, because the reason, I mean, the whole story with it and knowing that you can be a part of it, you're gonna eventually sell these, right?
Well, yeah.
Or-
So they're this next week we'll have we've ordered. Well, we're starting with 100, so we've ordered 100 of them, right? So they'll be coming in.
They're so
No,
cool.
wait. The first one we've done was just 50. So I've just done a 50 of this model, of this type of one. We're going to split it up as the cannabis putter. We are going to put it on eBay, and just see how many greenskeepers are out there and want to be a part of this. And like I said, we're going to set it up to where it's coming back to help, with PTSD, felons, working through things, or even veterans. We get a lot of veterans out to our golf course, and they're suffering from PTSD too. We've had a lot come around that are using cannabis to be able to, cope with those things. And so it's just kind of that thing where we feel like we want to, give back at the same time.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a lot of beautiful things that could be done around that.
Yeah,
So
and we want to help out with that for
I'd
sure.
love to help.
So, one, we'll figure out a way to be able to help you get that website up even faster. I've got a lot of friends and contacts within the marketing community, so that would be really cool for them to be a part of it. And then, for those that are listening or watching, if you get to watch it, Spotify.
For
Any
those
other-
last week, we actually had our Tuesday episode aired everywhere but Spotify.
Yeah,
Something happened with the video and they didn't fix, I was dealing with them all yesterday, so I still have to go fix that, get that one back up. But yeah, for everyone else
Yeah.
on Spotify watching,
Yeah, if you're watching, message us. If you're interested in getting one of those, we'll get you in touch with Jeremy. So
well,
you
the
guys,
links will be below.
yeah,
So,
all of it will be down
yeah.
there.
Well,
And-
all of you are going to be greenskeepers. That's the thing. Just bring you into the club. I mean, you might be all over the United States, but at some point we might have a big golf course and everybody can.
oh
come and
yeah,
hang
no,
out and-
our Utah audience is growing. I've been meeting a lot of people now. Every time I go by the dispo, people will recognize my voice.
Yeah, that's a
And-
weird thing to get recognized by.
Right?
Yeah, they're just like, "Hey, I know that voice."
I
And
love
I'm
it.
like, "Yeah, hey, how's it going?" And they're just
cool.
like, I just think it's cool, man, because it's so cool to meet other people that are on that same journey. And we created this for you,
Exactly.
for everybody listening. We created it for you. And this is why Brandon and I have been doing this for almost every week for the last 3 years. We record, and we don't know, we didn't know what it was going to do. We didn't think it was going to get to the size it did, but I got to tell you, dude, we're just barely scratching the surface. And it's being able to unite with other,
Yeah.
cannabis enthusiasts, cannabis consumers that
Right.
have found
It's always the
lot more than
partnerships
expected.
that get it to the next stages.
Totally.
It does.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
because
so
without it, I mean, when you look at life, I mean, there's not
you
much.
can't do
you
everything alone.
You
Yeah.
can't.
No,
It's not
you
how
can't
life
life on
works.
your own.
You
And
can't.
definitely cannabis is a tool. It's an aid. Can it be something bad? Sure. If you-
Anything can be abused.
Anything
Totally.
can be abused, and then that's the thing of having respect, and knowing yourself, and loving yourself enough, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes when we get in those, in those places, like
Depressive states.
it has to be what it needs to be to get you to where you got to get.
Right?
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
you to where
You have to
gotta
go
get.
through those hard moments. I mean, that's what makes us into the people that we are. You
Right.
know, coming out the other side. So
It is. We got to suffer.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. No pain, no progress without pain.
Mm.
So just kind of sit in it. Then it's okay. But if you're having a real difficult time, if you've got somebody that can be able to listen to you or help you, if you're having difficulties, please reach out to them. If not, we'll even put like a link down there to suicide prevention hotline over there to be able to help you out if you're having difficulties. And you know what? We're always really open to it too. If you're having struggles and you feel like talking to one of us is going to help
Mm.
out,
Reach out.
yeah, totally.
Shoot us a message.
We always respond. I don't think there's ever been something that's come to us in email and they're like, no, not today.
Oh, there's definitely days that it's like, no, not today. But then we email them back later. But it's usually just because of stress and all the other shit that's going on. It's like, oh fuck, I can't. No, that's a
But
tomorrow problem.
it's good though, and I think the funniest things when people hit us up, they go, "Oh my gosh, I didn't think you'd respond." I'm like, what? What do you think? We were like, "Oh yeah, I was out on my yacht smoking a blunt. Yeah, that's just what I do."
Who are
is
these
what I
people messaging me? Poor
Yeah,
peasants.
Fuck off.
Can't talk to them.
We love all of you. We truly love all of you. And we're so glad you guys have been along for the journey. Jeremy, thank you so much.
For riding your
Thank you, guys.
launmower and tuning in every week.
Yeah,
I mean,
dude.
And then coming on the show. This has been
Having a show.
amazing, man.
I mean, we made it happen, guys.
This is awesome. All right, guys.
Catch you next week.